Leo was a little surprised to hear that the freeloading rich kid had also ended up at Berkeley. What a coincidence. On the other end of the line, the Wei family heir, having previously learned that his savior was also a Berkeley student, explained he was on a satellite campus. He then enthusiastically insisted that the next time Leo had a class over there, he absolutely had to let him know. Bring your girl with you, man. I'll treat you both to dinner. I swear, the kid promised, thumping his chest. Leo laughed. All right, but we have classes on that campus at different times. Wyatt didn't miss a beat. No problem. You two can come separately. I'll treat you twice. Hell, if you trust me, I'll take your girl out by myself. Huh? Leo's brow furrowed. That sounded a little too much like a proposition. He shot back without thinking. That won't be necessary. You should focus on having a nice life with your childhood sweetheart. There was a stunned silence on the other end, followed by a cry of pure horror. Holy shit, what kind of evil curse is that? You can't say stuff like that, man. After hanging up, Leo couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle, thinking of the clown on the other end of the line. The guy was definitely interesting. He had no idea what kind of monster his childhood sweetheart must be to scare a grown man like that. She was probably violent and unreasonable. The thought passed, and Leo looked up the street. Claire, Anna, and a few other girls were just walking out of another boutique, laughing and chatting. As if sensing his gaze, she turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting his. She smiled and gave her boyfriend a little wave. Leo smiled back, getting up to meet them, his mood bright. Yeah, my girlfriend is the best. Sweet, thoughtful, and generous. 1,000,000 times better than whatever that freeloader's childhood sweetheart is like. As evening approached, the sky began to dim. After 2 straight hours of shopping, the girls were finally feeling a little satisfied, mostly because the mail pack mules were physically out of hands to carry any more bags. Even reasonable, the parrot was miserably clenching a small jewelry bag in his beak. Man or bird, no one escaped a life of hard labor. It was about time for dinner. Anna, who knew the area like the back of her hand, enthusiastically mentioned a small local seafood joint around the corner of the commercial street that was supposed to be amazing. Everyone's spirits lifted, and they quickened their pace. The restaurant's decor was plain and unpretentious, but the moment they walked in, the rich aroma of cooked food hit them, making everyone's mouth water. They found a large round table by the window and sat down, calling the owner over to order. While waiting for the food, the girls excitedly pulled out the little trinkets they just bought, comparing them and getting ready to try them on. Claire had also bought a pair of stud earrings, and now turned her head slightly for Leo to help her. Assuming his boyfriend duties, Leo took the earring, ready to put it in. But it was his first time doing something like this. He held the stud in one hand and gently pinched her delicate, small earlobe with the other. Staring at the tiny hole, he tried to line it up again and again, but he just couldn't seem to get it right. On one hand, he was worried he'd miss and hurt her if he used too much force. On the other, if he was too gentle, the earring wouldn't go in. Such a simple little task had him breaking out in a sweat. Claire was caught between exasperation and amusement, trying to guide her clumsy boyfriend. You've got the spot. Just use a little bit of force. Leo subconsciously wiped his brow. I've got it. I'm just afraid I'll hurt you. The rest of the table looked on. Question mark. The more we listen, the more this doesn't sound right. Is this really the kind of conversation you have when putting on an earring? Following her instructions, Leo instinctively applied more pressure, but accidentally squeezed her earlobe instead. The girl's earlobe was sensitive. The sudden pinch sent a shiver through her, and she couldn't help but let out a soft, breathy moan. It startled Leo. Are you okay? Did I hurt you? Claire's body felt a little weak. Her face flushed slightly as she shook her head. I'm fine. Bertha might have been fine, but everyone else at the table was completely stunned. Wait a minute. What kind of X-rated dialogue is this? Beside them, the well-versed, widely watched parrot flapped its wings and offered a righteous critique. I've seen this one. Finally, with great difficulty, Leo managed to get the earring in. The couple let out a simultaneous sigh of relief, feeling as exhausted as if they'd just fought a war. Claire picked up a small mirror, tilting her head to look. She seemed satisfied, then turned to her boyfriend for his opinion. Does it look good? Leo was staring at the stud in her earlobe, bursting with a sense of accomplishment. He nodded firmly. It looks great. I put it in myself. Of course it looks great. Claire laughed, glancing at him. You dummy. Couldn't even find the hole, and you have the nerve to brag. Leo felt a little embarrassed. Well, I don't have any experience. Don't worry, practice makes perfect. I'll know what to do next time. The words were normal enough, but everyone else at the table was already looking up with suspicion. Are we going there again? Reasonable flapped its wings furiously. Arrest them! Arrest them! Arrest them! In the midst of the chaos, Anna, who was sitting on Leo's other side, leaned over eagerly. Hey, blockhead, help me put mine in too. She held out a small gold hoop she'd bought. Leo looked at the hoop. Then he looked at his cousin and hesitated. Is that a nose ring? Annie Cakes froze. A second later, she erupted, pouncing on him in a rage. Nose ring my ass. It's an earring. An earring. At long last, the food arrived. Anna's recommendation was spot on. The restaurant looked ordinary, but the dishes were a feast for the senses. After an afternoon of walking, everyone was starving and dug in, their mouths full of delicious food. A few minutes later, 2 plates of pan-seared black bass were brought to the table. The enthusiastic owner explained it was their signature dish and urged everyone to try it while it was hot. The group eagerly picked up their chopsticks again. One bite, and everyone's eyes lit up with praise. Delicious! Wow, this fish is so tender. It smells amazing. Amidst the chorus of compliments, Leo noticed that Claire hadn't touched her chopsticks. He asked her about it curiously. Claire just shook her head. You guys go ahead. I don't really like fish. Leo paused. Then he remembered something about her. In his past life, Leo had read an interview with her. The article was incredibly detailed, digging up every possible tidbit about the personal habits and preferences of the formidable CEO of Sterling Holdings. One of those details, supposedly leaked from a family relative, was that the all-powerful CEO, who dominated the business world, had one peculiar weakness. She was terrible at eating fish. All because she couldn't pick out the bones. When the interviewer had asked her about it, the CEO had simply responded with a calm, placid expression, a rumor. For most people, it was just a piece of gossip, impossible to verify. But now, as Leo watched everyone at the table happily devouring the pan-seared bass and then glanced at his girlfriend's nonchalant expression, his interest was piqued. The source herself was right here. He could finally verify it firsthand. He smiled and encouraged her. Everyone says it's really good. Why don't you try a bite? Claire pursed her lips, still calm and composed. No thanks. I'm not interested in fish. Her tone was steady, but Leo, knowing her as well as he did, could detect a subtle note of stubbornness and guilt in her voice. Quinn, who was eating with gusto, overheard Claire and chimed in. Claire, you have to try it. It's seriously amazing. On the other side of the table, Marco looked over curiously and said offhandedly, Bertha, don't tell me you don't know how to pick out fish bones. The words, spoken without malice, hit their mark. Claire's expression tightened. She immediately retorted in a cool voice. Who said that? It's just eating fish. Of course I know how. Then, under everyone's gaze, she nonchalantly picked up a piece of the base with her chopsticks and placed it on her plate. She stared at the piece of fish, carefully poking at the meat. She discreetly glanced around, observing how everyone else was eating it. She looked back down at her plate. She poked it again, accidentally breaking the piece apart and revealing a multitude of tiny, fine bones. Her brow furrowed unconsciously, a rare look of helplessness on her face. Just then, Molly looked up, her expression curious. Claire, why aren't you eating yet? Claire froze for a second before quickly regaining her composure. She replied casually, no rush. It's a little hot. I'm letting it cool down. The others hadn't caught on, but Leo couldn't help but smile. It was confirmed. Ms. Bertha, Sue really didn't know how to eat fish. Thinking of the cool, aloof goddess she had once been and the powerful, commanding presence she had projected as a CEO in his past life, it was almost comical that she could be stumped by a few fish bones. It was an adorable contradiction, especially now, watching her try so hard to look composed while feeling guilty. The smile on Leo's face only grew wider. He found his girlfriend more endearing than ever. People without girlfriends would never understand this feeling. An idea sparked. Leo reached over and took the plate from in front of Claire. Too many bones. Let me take care of that for you. As he spoke, he was already expertly working on the fish with his chopsticks. In the blink of an eye, the main spine was removed, followed by the fine, small bones hidden within the flesh, all plucked out with ease. The piece of fish remained perfectly intact. The rest of the table couldn't help but stare, letting out a long, drawn-out "oh" of teasing. Anna was amazed. Wow, blockhead, since when did you get so smooth? Claire watched her boyfriend perfectly deb-one the fish, her own mouth slightly agape in surprise. She quickly composed herself and pretended to be unfazed. I don't need your help. I could do it myself. Leo just smiled at his stubborn girlfriend. I know you can, but I wanted to help you. His words drew another round of oohs and ahs from the table. Marco audibly gasped. Oh shit, it's over. The kid actually knows how to be a boyfriend. Even Claire was a little stunned, not expecting that response. A moment later, her eyes curved into crescents of satisfaction. She reached out and gently squeezed her boyfriend's hand. Okay, you help me. As thanks, I'll help you back later. This time, it was Leo's turn to be stunned. Help him? How? Help him with what part, what area? His mind suddenly flashed with an idea, and a jolt went through his entire body. He could feel a nosebleed coming on. Ahem, milady, how could I possibly accept? He was about to play modest when Claire added, I'll learn how to make this dish, and I'll cook it for you myself sometime. Leo, the sudden plot twist hit him like a Mack truck on a rainy night, nearly throwing out his back. He recovered, calmly composing himself. That won't be necessary. Actually, Kevin was the one who taught me how to do this. You could just make it for him next time. One was focused on deboning fish, the other on savoring it. The power couple was back to their usual routine of public displays of affection. Molly watched them with envy. "Aw, you guys are so cute. It's just like in my novels." Then she looked down and was surprised to find a pile of deboned fish on her own plate. "Hey, I have some too." It turned out that Leon, seeing what Leo had done, had decided to follow his roommate's example and serve his own girlfriend. The date K guy might be simple and honest, but he was a diligent student. Molly was instantly beaming with joy. Why ship other couples? She was the heroine of her own novel. She had her own romance. She happily took a bite of fish, then fed a piece to her boyfriend. After their sweet moment, she turned to the others at the table with an innocent expression. "You guys should eat too. Why are you just sitting there? Is it because you don't have a significant other to deb on your fish for you?" Everyone else. Suddenly, their fists were clenched. Marco looked down his own 2 hands and rallied his spirits. Who said he didn't have a partner? He had 2 girlfriends right here. Self-reliance was the key to happiness. The meal, served with a heavy side of PDA, left everyone stuffed. Finally, they all sat back, rubbing their full bellies, unable to eat another bite. Jade suggested, "Let's go walk around, burn some of this off." Quinn's face lit up. There was another shopping street we didn't get to. Before she could finish, the guy shot her down in a panic. "No, let's do something else." As the local host, Anna thought for a moment, and her eyes brightened. "I've got it. There's a rollerblading rink nearby." The rollerblading rink, Anna mentioned, was actually an open-air park plaza. Normally, in the evenings, it was a popular spot for people to take a stroll and enjoy the cool air, or for older women to blast music from portable speakers and do their group dances. It was only a rink in the sense that some clever entrepreneur saw a business opportunity, took advantage of the free space, and started renting out rollerblades. $5 an hour got you a pair of skates and free reign of the plaza. With no overhead for the venue, it was practically a zero-cost business. The price was a little steeper than an internet cafe for college students, but the advantage of rollerblading was that you could do it with a girl. And if the girl didn't know how to skate, it was a natural opportunity to offer some hands-on instruction. On a breezy spring evening, with the scent of wildflowers in the air, a little physical contact between young people could easily brew up some romantic chemistry. And once the temperature between a couple started to rise, an observant older woman would warmly approach, handing over a small card or 2, helpfully explaining that there was a motel right near the rink with a special pleasure waterbed, perfect for couples looking for further interaction. It was a seamless upstream to downstream connection. A fully mature industry chain had taken root. As Anna led Leo, Claire, and the others to the plaza, she casually explained the whole setup. Everyone's eyes widened in amazement. Marco, in particular, was intrigued. "A special waterbed? How? Watery? I really want to check it out." Quinn shot him a sideways glance. "Check out your head. What's a single guy like you even thinking about that for?" On the other side, Molly, one half of the only other couple present, was also curious. "A waterbed? What's that like? I've never read about one of those in my novels." Jade pushed up her glasses and offered a calm, objective analysis. "Perhaps the novels you read aren't steamy enough." Leo, holding his girlfriend's hand, delivered a righteous verdict. "This is so tacky. Waterbeds, really? I think a normal bed at home is much more comfortable." He paused, then looked at Claire without batting an eye. "But then again, if it's really that tacky, maybe we have a duty to go and personally critique it." Claire smiled faintly. "That won't be necessary." Leo immediately nodded with renewed conviction. "You're right. I don't think it's necessary either." Privately, however, he was already scheming. He'd missed his chance to try the vibrating friendship bed, but this waterbed sounded pretty good too. He'd have to ask Mr. Chan if he had any connections to get one for the house. As they chatted, they could see quite a few people already skating around the plaza. There were plenty of young people and college couples, but there were also kids and seniors, making up almost half the crowd. The kids looked young, but were all expert skaters, pulling off tricks with ease. One little hellion even zipped past a candied hawthorn stand, snatched a skewer, and sped away, leaving the vendor chasing after him, yelling, "Hey, you brat, get back here and pay for that." Some of the seniors looked to be in their 60s or 70s, but were surprisingly agile. They glided around the plaza with their hands behind their backs, completely at ease. When a particularly attractive older woman appeared, a few of the old men's eyes lit up, and they all simultaneously accelerated to try and strike up a conversation. The result was a multi-person collision. The men went tumbling, then scrambled up, red-faced and angry, pointing at each other and cursing in the local dialect. It was a ridiculous, yet charming, slice of life. Leo and the others grew intrigued and quickly found a rental stand. They paid their money and started picking out skates in their sizes. The skates came in two types, inline and quad. Everyone instinctively reached for the quad skates, thinking they'd be more stable and safer. That's when Anna stepped forward, speaking like an expert. Quad skates aren't necessarily better for beginners. They're stable when you're standing still, but once you start moving, it's easy to lose your balance and fall. I suggest you guys go with the inline skates. I'll teach you the basic T-stop and how to step. You'll get the hang of it slowly. She sounded so knowledgeable that everyone was surprised. It turned out that in her 3 years at East Bay Financial, she'd often come here to skate in her free time and had become quite the expert. Their enthusiasm renewed. Everyone swapped their skates and eagerly gathered around for Professor Anna's lesson. Leo was sitting on a nearby step, lacing up his own inline skates. Before he could stand up, he heard the smooth glide of wheels approaching. A pair of slender, long legs came to a perfect T-stop right in front of him. He looked up into his girlfriend's beautiful, radiant face. Claire held out a pale, delicate hand to him. "Come on, one-on-one instruction. I'll teach you." Leo looked at her, standing there with such relaxed confidence, a little surprised. "You know how to skate too?" Claire raised an eyebrow. "I know a thing or two." As she spoke, she glanced over at Anna, who was already teaching the others, a small smile playing on her lips. Come to think of it, this was a skill her best friend and sister-in-law from her past life had taught her. Soon, everyone had their skates on and was attempting to glide around the plaza. Most of them were beginners and were diligently following Anna's instructions. Jade and Quinn seemed to have a knack for it. They quickly figured out how to stay balanced on the inline wheels and were already practicing their steps, excitedly shuffling around. Molly was a fast learner too. Ironically, Leon, the fitness fanatic with explosive athletic talent, was incredibly clumsy on skates, constantly losing his balance and falling. So Molly, the star pupil, took it upon herself to teach her boyfriend hand in hand. Dylan and Marco were the remedial students. After half an hour, they still hadn't mastered the basic T-stop. The two Gotham brothers stood trembling in one spot, clinging to each other for dear life, terrified they'd both fall if they let go. Anna watched them, exasperated. "What are you two doing? Are you conjoined twins? Somebody come pull one of them away." Just then, Jade glided over gracefully. "Dylan, come with me. I can give you one-on-one instruction." As she spoke, Jade, who had taken anatomy in high school, looked at the small, nervous boy, her eyes gleaming behind her black-framed glasses with the same interest she'd show a new lab rat. A few moments later, a certain handsome young man was clutching his slightly red earlobe and obediently learning how to rollerblade from his girlfriend. After mastering the T-stop and basic steps, it was time to actually start skating. Leo had done well with the first two parts, but when it came to gliding, he ran into trouble. He couldn't control his balance and would stumble after just a few feet, nearly falling over. Heart pounding, he looked up at his girlfriend and made a sincere, humble suggestion. "How about I just hold on to your waist and you guide me for a little while?" He said it with such earnestness. Unfortunately, Anna happened to be gliding past and overheard him. "What guide? You just want to get your hands on her. Don't fall for it, Claire." She gave him a look of utter contempt and ruthlessly exposed him. She made a face at Leo and then skated gracefully away to find her other hopeless students. Leo watched his meddling cousins retreating back, grinding his teeth. "Damn you, Annie cakes. No wonder this little devil can't find a boyfriend. She should just stay single forever. Serve her right." He turned back to his girlfriend, his expression once again sincere. "Don't listen to her. I'm not that kind of person." Claire wasn't fooled for a second. She arched an eyebrow. "Behave. Keep practicing." And so, Professor Bertha began a new round of instruction. She certainly had the air of a strict teacher. "Don't lean forward. Keep your core stable. Don't be so tense. Relax. And don't stick your butt out so high. Her words were punctuated by a sharp smack. Professor Bertha's slender hand had landed squarely on her student's rear end. Leo. He slowly turned his head to look at his girlfriend, a question mark materializing above him. Does teaching someone to skate involve spanking? Isn't that a little unprofessional, Professor Sue? But Claire was completely unfazed. I was telling you to tuck your butt in. She said it with such conviction, but the slight curve of her lips gave her away. Leo. All right. With his girlfriend turned strict teacher supervising, Leo threw himself into his studies. But every few seconds, he'd hear a rhythmic smack, smack, smack. It was accompanied by the girl's mock-stern instructions. Lower. Don't stick it out. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. I'm not sticking it out anymore. Why are you still hitting me? He looked down, and, sure enough, his posture was now perfect, almost flawless. Claire coolly retracted her hand and replied without batting an eye. Oh, force of habit. It has a nice feel to it. Your butt is quite springy. As the saying goes, strict teachers produce great students. After paying the price of 20-something smacks to the butt, Leo was finally getting the hang of rollerblading. He could slowly glide across the rink by himself without fear of falling, and he was starting to enjoy it. He skated around on his own for a bit, having a blast, before he remembered his girlfriend and waved for her to join him. Claire had been watching from the side with a smile. Seeing him wave, she gladly went to him and took her boyfriend's hand, leading him in a graceful glide across the rink. One was radiant and slender, the other handsome and tall. Skating side by side, they looked like a perfect match to everyone watching. Not far away, Anna had just finished her teaching duties and was now showing off by herself. She executed a perfect 360-degree spin and looked up, ready to boast to her brother and sister-in-law. Claire, look at me. Wasn't that cool? The next second, she saw Bertha and Leo Hammer skating hand in hand, laughing and talking before leaning in for a kiss. Anna. Suddenly, the fun was over. From now on, annoying couples should be banned from this skating rink. On the other side of the plaza, Quinn, Molly, and Leon had also gotten the hang of it and were having a great time. Dylan had finally escaped Jade's clutches and was clumsily shuffling away. Just then, Marco, having declared himself graduated from Anna's class, went zipping past. Whoa, look at me. I think I'm a rollerblading genius. IHHH. He'd gotten carried away, skating too fast to stop. In a panic, he shot forward, right into an unsuspecting Dylan. There was a tangle of flailing limbs. Dylan ended up on the bottom. Marco, carried by momentum, slammed into him face first. The deep bond between the Gotham brothers had just been tragically deepened. They kissed. When the two of them, dazed and bruised, finally untangled themselves, they stared at each other in wide-eyed horror. Dylan was so shocked he actually managed to stammer out a few words. You. Marco looked equally stunned, subconsciously touching his own lips. Then his entire world shattered. Oh God, I'm tainted. Leo and Claire skated for a while longer. Feeling a little tired, they went to the edge of the plaza and sat down on a step to rest. There was a small stand selling cold drinks nearby, so they bought a couple of sodas to quench their thirst. The vendor was quite friendly. As he handed them the glass bottles, he boasted, "This soda's an old classic. Been selling it here for years. A 5-generation family recipe." Leo saw right through him. So, which generation are you? The owner didn't miss a beat. The first. The bottles had no labels, but the flavors were varied and sweet. The couple sat on the steps, sipping their sodas and enjoying the spring evening breeze, chatting casually with the talkative vendor. It was pleasant and relaxing. Suddenly, a panicked female voice cut through the noise of the plaza. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp and sudden. Help, let go of me." Leo and Claire both looked up in the direction of the voice. The plaza was crowded, but they could vaguely make out a group of young men surrounding a girl, pulling at her. A crowd was already starting to gather, blocking their view. The sharp-eyed vendor seemed to recognize what was happening, his expression tightening. "It's that gang of thugs again. They've been coming here every day lately, causing trouble. Some poor girl must have caught their eye." The vendor was shaking his head with a sigh when another familiar female voice, full of anger, rang out from the crowd. "What do you think you're doing? Harassing a girl in public? Let her go." Leo and Claire recognized the second voice at the same time. Quinn. Although they couldn't see exactly what was happening, the vendor's explanation gave Leo and Claire a pretty clear picture. When they heard Quinn's furious shouting, the couple frowned, exchanged a look, and simultaneously stood up from the steps. The vendor saw them and quickly tried to stop them. "Hey, where are you two going? That gang is bad news. The leaders are two brothers they call 4 and 5. You know them? There used to be a big shot in the old district named Yin Chong, but he pissed off someone important and got locked up. His territory got carved up, and those two brothers snatched this little piece. They got more than a dozen guys working for them. You two look like college students, right? You don't want to get mixed up in this. I heard they carry weapons. The man meant well, but he couldn't stop them. When he mentioned a certain Mr. Yin, Leo actually paused for a second, a little surprised. Then he smiled and waved a hand at the vendor. It's fine, don't worry. We're just going to go have a look, talk some sense into them. As he spoke, Claire smoothly handed him 2 glass soda bottles. Take a couple bottles of sense with you, just in case. Right? Leo said, naturally taking the bottles and stuffing them into his pockets. He pulled out a $20 bill and placed it on the counter. For a few more. Thanks, keep the change. At the same time, Claire picked up 2 more bottles from the stand. She paused for a moment, as if remembering something. Then she put them down and chose 2 pink, peach-flavored sodas instead, stuffing them into the pockets of her hoodie. That Wyatt kid had a point. A girl had to maintain her image. Even when you were about to argue, you had to do it in pink. With their arguments loaded, the couple exchanged a look, raised their eyebrows, and started walking toward the crowd, hands in their pockets. As they walked, they calmly and methodically discussed their plan. Call the cops first. Right. If there are a lot of them, we need to take down the leaders first. You're not feeling well, so don't get too close. I'm fine. I can fight better than you. They walked on, their backs disappearing into the crowd, leaving the vendor standing there, stunned. He stared at their retreating figures, then at the empty spots on his counter and the $20 bill. A giant question mark and an exclamation point slowly formed above his head. Wait a minute. Why did those 2 kids look so practiced? At the same time, at the scene of the incident, a crowd had gathered. They watched as Quinn pulled a pretty, terrified-looking girl behind her, shielding her protectively. She faced the group of young men, her face flushed with anger. What is this? A bunch of grown men harassing a young woman in public? Have you no shame? She turned to the girl behind her and offered a comforting word. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Quinn had stumbled upon this by accident. She had gotten tired of skating and was returning her rollerblades when she saw a girl who looked like a student being harassed by a few rough-looking young men. The girl was struggling and crying for help. Without a second thought, Quinn had rushed over, leading to the current standoff. The young men looked to be in their early 20s at most, but they were dressed like delinquents, with cigarettes dangling from their lips and an air of menace about them. They were surprised that anyone had dared to interfere. Then they saw Quinn's face. The leader, who had a buzz cut, stopped smoking, his eyes lighting up. Well, look what we have here, a real beauty. As he spoke, his lecherous eyes scanned Quinn from head to toe. Playing the hero, are we? Fine, we'll let this one go. In exchange, how about you come play with us, sweetheart? Another one, with a wild, spiky hairstyle, stared at Quinn greedily. You go first, boss. When you're done, it's my turn. Quinn was so furious she laughed. Her already fiery personality came roaring out as she spat a curse at them. Go home and play with your dad. What kind of blind fool gave birth to scum like you? Pathetic. But her words had no effect on the thugs. They didn't get angry. They just burst out laughing. Damn, she's got a temper. A little firecracker. The buzzcut leader took a long drag from his cigarette and flicked the butt to the ground. Interesting. My name's EC, and that's just my type. You're both coming with us. He gestured for his men to surround them, reaching out to grab Quinn's wrist. Quinn struggled furiously. Let go of me. Just then, footsteps approached. Molly and Leon, having heard the commotion, had arrived. Seeing her roommate being grabbed, Molly rushed forward in a panic. Quinn, what are you doing? Let her go. She grabbed EC's wrist and tried to pry his fingers open. EC had initially dismissed the small girl, but a sharp pain shot through his wrist, and his fingers loosened involuntarily. He was stunned, a question mark nearly appearing over his head. Where did this girl come from? And how is she so strong? He looked closer, and when he saw Molly's face, his eyes lit up again. Damn, this one's not bad either. Hey, little sister, interested in playing some games at a hotel with me? Before he could finish, a much larger, more muscular figure appeared, blocking his view entirely. Leon stood protectively in front of his girlfriend, his expression unusually serious and firm as he stared down the gang leader. She's not interested, and you will speak to her with respect. Molly ignored the thug completely, turning to Quinn with concern. Quinn, are you okay? After Quinn shook her head, Molly breathed a sigh of relief, then turned back to the thugs, her small face tense as she yelled, What do you want? This is a public place. If you keep this up, we're calling the police. In the corner of the plaza, Molly's voice was clear and sharp, ringing with righteous indignation. But to EC and his cronies, it held no threat. They just laughed again. Ooh, the police. We're so scared. What do we do that counts as harassment? Watch what you say. Beautiful, or we'll sue you for slander. He sees eyes greedily swept over Quinn, Molly, and the first girl. Exactly. We're just trying to have a little fun. There are 3 of you, and more than 10 of us. We got all types. You can take your pick. He started to step forward again, but before he could take 2 steps, the burly figure blocked his path once more. Leon stared at EC, his voice low and steady. If you keep this up, I won't be so polite. EC didn't seem intimidated by Leon's muscular frame at all. He just sneered. Oh, you think you can scare me just because you're tall, meathead? You think EC, got to where I am by being scared? His voice rose to a shout on the last sentence. In a flash, he pulled an expandable baton from his waist and swung it viciously at Leon's head. Leon hadn't expected the man to be so brazen. Caught off guard, he instinctively raised his arm to block. The baton struck his forearm with a sickening thwack that echoed in everyone's ears, making their teeth ache and scalps tingle. Pain shot through Leon's arm, and it dropped limply to his side. Molly and Quinn cried out in alarm. EC grinned maliciously. What good is being tall? All my brothers are armed. As he spoke, the other thugs smirked and lifted the hems of their shirts, revealing more batons and even the glint of butterfly knives. The crowd gasped, their faces tightening with fear. A few people who had been about to step forward now quietly retreated. But just then a loud, powerful shout erupted from the edge of the crowd. The hell? Who's messing with my brother? Boss, we're here to help. Everyone instinctively turned to look. On the outskirts of the crowd, Marco and Dylan had arrived. Seeing the situation, the Gotham brothers hadn't even bothered to take off their rollerblades. They were desperately trying to accelerate on their wobbly inline skates, charging into the fray. They hadn't even considered braking. Building up a reckless speed, the 2 of them became human cannonballs, crashing into the group of thugs like a bowling ball into pins. EC was quick and dodged Dylan's charge, sending Dylan sprawling to the ground. Marco, however, found his target, tackling the spiky-haired thug, Wu, to the ground, taking himself down in the process. He'd inflicted some damage, but unfortunately, the thugs quickly recovered. At EC's angry command, they dragged Marco to his feet and kicked him hard, sending him sprawling again. The spiky-haired Wu was helped up and, furious, delivered another vicious kick. You son of a bitch. I'll give you help. The minor disruption was quickly contained. EC's smug expression returned as he surveyed Quinn, Molly, and the other girls like a predator eyeing its prey. He glanced at Leon and the fallen Dylan and Marco, then let out a contemptuous sneer. Teach the guys a lesson. Then we'll take the girls. His casual words seemed to seal the fate of the college students. Wu and the other thugs were grinning cruelly, about to move in. Suddenly, another voice came from outside the crowd. Wait a minute. The voice was pleasant to the ear. A beautiful figure walked calmly into the circle. Quinn and the others saw her, and their expressions changed. Any cakes. Marco on the ground yelled desperately, Sis, don't. Get out of here. Wu kicked him in the stomach again. Shut your mouth. The newcomer was Anna. The thugs, seeing her emerge from the crowd, were so stunned by her beauty that their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. Damn, another beauty. This one's even better. This one's the best. Anna seemed completely unaffected by their vulgar comments. She walked toward EC with a bright smile. What's going on? Such a lively party. If you're having fun, count me in. The leader, EC, was practically entranced. Hearing her words, he beamed and nodded eagerly. No problem. Whatever you want to play, beautiful. I'm your man. Anna's smile widened. She continued walking toward him, her voice cheerful. Let me think. How about I play? A little tune on your head. The words came so suddenly that no one had time to react. EC froze, still trying to process what she meant. The next second, Anna closed the distance between them. As she reached him, she pulled a soda bottle from her pocket and, without a moment's hesitation, smashed it over his head. Crack! Soda and shattered glass sprayed everywhere like confetti. A familiar move. A glorious tradition passed down through the Lynn family of Northwood. It was a solid hit with no force held back. EC, caught completely off guard, stumbled back, dazed and disoriented. But Anna didn't stop. She dropped the broken bottle, followed up with a swift kick that sent him to the ground, and then turned to her friends and yelled, What are you waiting for? Get them. The 2 dorms of friends snapped back to reality. Marco, gritting his teeth, scrambled up from the ground and let out a roar as he tackled the spiky-haired Wu again. Dylan, unable to stand on his skates, simply grabbed a thug's leg and bit down hard. Leon was a beast unleashed. With a furious shout, he grabbed a thug by the collar, lifted him clean off the ground, and slammed him back down with incredible force. First time's a lesson, second time's a habit. Leo himself felt a sense of déjà vu. Even the lines he was about to say felt familiar and natural. This butterfly knife felt just like that broken liquor bottle from the Dynasty Lounge, pressing coolly against the man's neck. The scene stunned everyone into silence. The tables had turned so fast it was dizzying. One moment, the thugs were armed with batons and knives, arrogant and untouchable. The next, the situation had completely reversed. The turning point seemed to be when the beautiful, smiling girl walked up and smashed a soda bottle over Hisei's head. But the couple who appeared last, they had taken complete control of the situation from the moment they arrived. One was calmly holding a butterfly knife to the gang leader's throat. The other had just knocked out a thug with a bottle and was now casually chatting with his cousin, his foot planted on another thug's chest to keep him down. They were so practiced they looked like seasoned criminals. No, like people who had been through this exact scenario before. Their calm demeanor was more intimidating than the thug's blustering arrogance. For a moment, no one could believe their eyes. The whole thing felt surreal. Is this a movie shoot? A bunch of college kids acting this cool? Marco was staring dumbfounded. Suddenly, it hit him, and he blurted out in a rush of excitement. Holy shit, I've seen the scene before. It's just like the Dynasty Lounge. It was similar, but not exactly the same. The quality of these thugs was a significant step down from the organized criminals at the Dynasty Lounge. This EC was nothing compared to Yin Chong's right-hand man, Liu. The moment the butterfly knife touched his neck, the man's face changed, though he tried to sound tough. You touch me, I dare you, you son of a bitch. Leo nodded. Okay. He expertly pressed the knife a little harder against the man's neck. It hadn't even broken skin, but it was enough to scare Hisei half to death. Bro, don't do anything crazy. I'll listen to you. Everybody stop. Stop, goddammit. He folded instantly. Leo was actually a little taken aback. He hadn't expected the guy to be so cooperative. He subconsciously felt the 2 soda bottles still in his pocket with a tinge of regret. That's it? You're stopping already? If you'd held out a little longer, I could have argued with you some more. Now it was Hisei's turn to be confused. Argued. His eyes drifted down and widened in horror as he saw the glass soda bottle the other man had pulled from his pocket. Hisei, the feared leader of the Park Plaza thugs, was on the verge of tears. What the hell are these people? Is that what you call an argument? Are your arguments always this hardcore? He looked at Leo, who held the knife steady at his throat. Then he looked at the big, dumb oaf who was single-handedly taking on 2 or 3 guys like a god of war. Then at the beautiful girl who had started it all by smiling and smashing a bottle over his head. And then at the even more stunningly beautiful girl who had just effortlessly shoulder-thrown someone and was wielding her own bottle like an expert. Finally, he saw the parrot, struggling to hold another soda bottle as it flapped back into the air, ready for another bombing run. Hisei's composure finally shattered. Who are the real villains here? Who the hell are you people? The parrot released its payload, and the bottle landed squarely in Hiwoo's groin. Then it landed gracefully on its owner's shoulder. Hearing Hisei's desperate, indignant question, Reasonable puffed out its chest and proudly declared, I'm your daddy. I'm your daddy. Just then, the sound of urgent footsteps approached, accompanied by a stern command. What's going on here? Police, stop what you're doing. Several uniformed officers pushed through the crowd. Jade's figure appeared behind them. Seeing that her friends were unharmed, she visibly relaxed and gave Leo and Claire a nod. Calling 911 was taking too long. The station is right next door, so I just went and got them. Perfect teamwork. Everyone had their role. Leo smiled and nodded back at Jade, then discreetly retracted the butterfly knife and politely tucked it back into Hisei's hand. Here's your tool. It's yours. They were just poor, defenseless victims. It wouldn't make sense for a victim to be holding a knife to a villain's throat, would it? That would be unreasonable. In the end, both groups were taken to the police station for questioning. For once in their lives, Hisei and his cronies felt genuinely wronged. They looked at the officers like they were long-lost relatives, tears welling in their eyes. Officer, you have to help us. These people are... Before he could finish, a voice from the other side cut in. Absolutely terrifying. Anna was facing the officers, her eyes red and welling with tears, her expression one of pure, heart-wrenching fear. Officer, you have to stand up for us. We're just ordinary college students, here to have some fun rollerblading, and we ran into these vicious thugs. They saw that we were pretty and held knives to our necks, threatening us. They said if we didn't go to a hotel with them, they would. They would. She choked up, unable to continue. Claire, sitting beside her, gently comforted her. It's okay now. The police are here. Don't be afraid. The officers will make sure justice is served. She turned to the policeman, her eyes clear and full of trust. Right, officer? Beside her, Anna looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The sister-in-law duo, a top-tier combo. The officers were so moved their sense of justice surged. They puffed out their chests and declared, "Don't you worry. We will absolutely get to the bottom of this." PC and his crew stared in disbelief. He nearly jumped out of his seat, yelling, "No, officer, don't be fooled. We didn't do that. They were the ones with the knife. They smashed soda bottles over our heads." At another table, a certain young man was munching on a date cake his roommate had just given him. He explained to an officer without batting an eye, "My friends and I were terrified. Our minds went completely blank. We saw them charging at us with knives and batons, and in the panic, we just grabbed whatever we could and swung. I'm still so scared my hands are shaking. Look." He held up his hand as evidence. Then he kindly offered the officer a piece of cake. "Would you like some?" "Oh, it's not that I have a good appetite. I'm just so terrified. I need to eat some cake to calm my nerves." The thugs were bruised and battered, their pleas for justice falling on deaf ears. The teenagers, on the other hand, were all bright-eyed and energetic, calmly stating, "I was terrified." The lines between victim and perpetrator had become hopelessly blurred. As the officers were taking statements, footsteps came from the main office, accompanied by the sound of conversation. Two middle-aged men in police uniforms walked out, chatting and laughing. The officers in the main hall immediately stood up. "Captain Liu." One of the men was the captain of this local station. He nodded to his officers. "Taking statements? A new case." The other middle-aged man's gaze swept across the room and stopped when he saw Leo and Claire. His eyes widened in shock. "What are you two doing here?" Leo looked up and recognized the man, equally surprised. Captain Xing. It was an old acquaintance. He was one of Mr. Zhou's former subordinates, a retired veteran from the 37th Army's elite battalion. After leaving the military, he had become the captain of the old district's police station. He had been in charge of the Dynasty Lounge case and the earlier Gavin Zhang incident as well. Captain Xing was just visiting a neighboring precinct today. He never expected to run into Leo and Claire. He was completely dumbfounded. "Seriously, how are you two involved in everything?" Knowing someone made things much easier. Leo and his friends were already in the right in today's incident. Even if there was a slight suspicion of excessive self-defense with Mr. Zhou's old subordinate on the scene, there were no more problems. "This is simple. No need to look into it further," Captain Xing said with a hearty laugh after hearing their side of the story. He turned to his colleague, the captain of the park precinct. "These two are old friends of our station. They've already helped us catch a fugitive and played a big part in the Dynasty Lounge case. We still owe them 2 commendations." The park precinct captain and his officers nodded in understanding. But the way they looked at Leo and Claire grew even stranger. What kind of energy do these two have? Do crimes just follow them wherever they go? Are they actual detectives from a cartoon? And another thing seemed impossible. He-See's gang had 6 or 7 guys, all armed with batons and knives. And they had been easily taken down by a handful of unarmed college students. They had checked their student IDs. These kids were from Berkeley or East Bay Financial, all top-tier students. These days, are the country's top universities producing graduates who are masters of both arts and combat? Captain Xing noticed his colleague's confusion and leaned in to whisper an explanation. "It probably has nothing to do with the university. These two went to Northwood High. It's a top-ranked provincial school, a real martial arts academy. Very impressive." Northwood Martial Arts Academy? The park precinct officers were stunned. Then it dawned on them, and a look of deep respect crossed their faces. So that's it. They had never heard of it, but judging by the glorious track record of these 2 teenagers, the school had to be extraordinary. They would have to find an opportunity to visit and pay their respects. Maybe send them a commemorative plaque. Today's Northwood High Reputation Index, +1. With Captain Xing's help, the incident was quickly classified. Leo and his friends were deemed to have acted in self-defense and in the process of stopping a crime. They were not at fault. After giving a simple statement, they were free to go. As for He-See, his brother He-Woo, and the other thugs for brawling in a public place and carrying prohibited weapons, combined with their extensive criminal records, they were destined for a nice long stay in the detention center. It was a satisfying outcome for all involved. As they were getting up to leave, Leo glanced over at He-See and offered a piece of well-intentioned advice. Work hard on reforming yourself in there. When you get out, be a better person. He glared at Leo with hatred, muttering through clenched teeth, "You just wait. Don't let me find you when I get out." "What? You got the balls to leave a name?" The familiar line. Hearing it, Claire's eyebrows shot up, and she moved closer to Leo. Someone was threatening her boyfriend. The Sterling family heiress was already mentally calculating how she could arrange for the detention center to give him some special attention. But Leo stopped her with a shake of his head. He looked at EC and smiled freely. "Sure. Come find me when you get out. I'll be waiting. I might want to hide my name. My name is Joe. Mr. Joe. Joe. Mr. Joe." EC repeated the name twice, his eyes glinting with cold malice. He sneered. "Good. Mr. Joe, is it? Just wait till I get out. I'll show you what I can do." Leo paused, meeting the brave thug's gaze, and said sincerely, "Good luck. I'm looking forward to it." And he really was. He just wasn't sure if these few thugs would be enough of a workout for the old soldier. By the time they left the station, it was late. Despite the chaotic incident at the rink, no one felt tired. Instead, they were all buzzing with excitement and energy. Recalling the fight, they were all still animated. Marco was practically preening. The rest of you were mostly just moral support. Annie Cakes, Bertha, and the kid, plus me. The four of us were the real heroes. According to Marco, counting the Dynasty Lounge incident, this was the second time he had joined forces with the power couple, facing down thugs without flinching and dominating the battlefield. Quinn rolled her eyes. "All right, we get it. You're a hero. But today was all thanks to Annie Cakes, Leo, and Claire, okay?" The others nodded in agreement. Thinking back on it now, they were still in awe. Leo and Claire were one thing. Most of them had only heard about what happened at the Dynasty Lounge, but seeing it firsthand was something else. They truly had controlled the situation from the moment they arrived. Paired with a certain parrot, they were a real-life, legendary couple. And Anna's performance had been breathtaking. The way she had walked up with a smile and so smoothly smashed that bottle over EC's head. It had stunned everyone, including the onlookers. A pro-level, critical engagement. Jade looked at Claire and offered an objective assessment. "That bottle you smashed was also beautifully done. Very practiced." Anna affectionately linked her arm with Claire's and boasted, "Of course. We're sisters-in-law, after all. I'm the only one who didn't get to throw my bottle. Maybe I should go back to the station and have another chat with that EC guy. I'll even pay for his medical bills. Just let me get one good throw in." The original plan was to get a hotel in the city for the night and rest. But after leaving the police station, everyone was too wired, and the cool spring night air gave them a new idea. "You know, I suddenly feel like going to the beach and feeling the sea breeze," Molly said out of the blue. The other girls' eyes lit up. "I second that." Claire readily agreed. "Then let's go back to our place first. We can grab some beer and sit by the ocean for a bit." Perched on his owner's shoulder, Reasonable flapped his wings excitedly, hopping up and down. "Let's get wasted. Let's get wasted. Don't go home till we're drunk. Don't go home till we're drunk." Quinn waved a hand enthusiastically. "Let's go. First stop, the single slaughterhouse." She paused and glanced at Marco, Leon, and Dylan. "And we should probably patch those guys up." The incident had been chaotic, but everyone had been incredibly brave. Facing down those thugs, not a single one of them had backed down. After Anna's critical bottle throw, Marco, Dylan, and Leon had courageously held the front line, protecting the girls as best they could. As a result, the girls were all unharmed, but the date cake guy and the Gotham brothers had taken some hits. They took a taxi back to the LNS house. Sitting on the living room sofa, the guys got to enjoy some rare, tender care from the girls. Molly sat next to her boyfriend, gently rolling up Leon's sleeve. Seeing the dark bruises on his arm, she felt a pang of sympathy, her lip quivering and her eyes turning red. "Does it hurt?" Leon just smiled his honest, simple smile. "It's fine. I've got thick skin." Seeing his girlfriend about to cry, the normally straightforward guy had a rare flash of inspiration. "Hey, doesn't this count as a hero saving the damsel in distress? Wounded for love. It's just like those novel plots you love so much." The comment made Molly laugh, but then she sniffled and said seriously, "That kind of plot is fine for novels. I don't want you to get hurt. I want you to be okay." Leon took her hand and nodded with solemnity. "Yeah, we'll both be okay." Reassured, Molly smiled and happily fed her boyfriend a date cake. "Here, eat this. It'll help with the pain." While one couple was having a sweet, tender moment, Quinn and Marco were a different story. The self-proclaimed general hadn't dealt much damage today, but he had definitely absorbed a lot. His arms, waist, and shoulders were covered in red and blue marks. But even that didn't stop him from boasting. Back in elementary school, I was the undefeated champion of 5th grade, Class 4. Now, they call me the Berkeley chapter of Jet Li. It's just that I was wearing rollerblades today, so I wasn't at my best. Otherwise, I could have easily taken on 10 of them. Ow. Hey Lou, be gentle. Ignoring Marco's theatrics, Quinn swabbed his wounds with alcohol, then slapped a bandage on. She shot him an exasperated look. All you do is brag. Berkeley chapter of Jet Li? If you don't have the skills, don't try to be a hero. After her tirade, she dipped a new cotton swab in alcohol. As she worked, she said casually, but thanks anyway. Marco blinked, not understanding. Huh. Quinn kept her head down, tending to a scrape on his arm as if nothing had happened. Earlier, when we were fighting, that he woo guy and another one were about to come after me. You were the one who held them back. That's why you got hit a few more times. I saw it. The air grew quiet for a moment. Marco scratched his head awkwardly, then put on a nonchalant act. That's it. It was nothing. What's our relationship, Lou? We're closer than real brothers. Forget that. For you, I'd walk through fire and not even blink. Ow, ow, ow. Another bandage was slapped unceremoniously onto a wound on his arm. Quinn gave him a look of contempt. Walk through fire? It'd be a huge help if you just stopped yelling in pain. Besides these two, the last pairing was even stranger. Jade was supposed to be treating Dylan's wounds. But with an alcohol swab in one hand and tweezers in the other, her eyes, gleaming behind her black-framed glasses, were fixed on Dylan like he was a lab specimen. All right, let's begin. She looked less like she was providing first aid and more like she was about to perform an autopsy. The next second, Dylan scrambled away in terror. Suddenly, his wounds didn't hurt anymore. The fear had numbed them. Leo, Claire, and Anna went to the kitchen and brought out a case of beer, along with some snacks and cured meats from the fridge. They packed everything into 2 backpacks. Then, the group headed out. The cool spring night air greeted them, and a short 10-minute walk from the neighborhood brought them to the beach. The area was called Golden Sand Beach. Waves crashed against the shore, carrying the salty scent of the sea, leaving behind lines of white foam before retreating again. They sat down on the sand. A bright moon peeked out from behind the clouds, casting a gentle, silvery glow that made the ocean shimmer and coated the teenagers on the beach in a soft light. The evening breeze was gentle, the sound of the waves a steady rhythm. They ate snacks from the backpacks, opened beers, and toasted each other with laughter. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious. Marco took a sip of beer and let out a burp. He smacked his lips and said with a touch of melancholy, "You know, it's a shame that girl we saved just ran off. A thank you would have been nice. At the very least, she should have thanked our girl Quinn. It makes our whole heroic deed feel a little incomplete." During the chaos at the rink, the girl who had first been harassed by he and his gang had, at some point during the fight, quietly slipped away. Perhaps she had just been panicked and desperate to escape the danger. The gentle wind blew, the moonlight like a silver ribbon. They sat on the beach, drinking and chatting. Some were getting tipsy, others were getting sleepy. Molly's eyelids were drooping. She was practically asleep on her boyfriend's shoulder, mumbling incoherently about 3 chapters a day isn't enough, and can't the author just post 200 at once? Utterly impossible fantasies. Anna was already fast asleep, her head resting in her sister-in-law's lap. It wasn't the alcohol. Annie Cake's tolerance was better than that. It was the long day of debate tournaments, shopping, and brawling that had finally caught up with her. Claire looked down at her best friend and sister-in-law, a fond smile on her face. She carefully brushed a stray strand of hair from Anna's forehead. Then she looked up at the others and said softly, "It's getting late. Should we head back?" No one objected. There were too many people to stay at the single slaughterhouse, and the dorms were already locked for the night. The 2 groups of roommates knew the drill. They'd grab a cab to a motel, Mr. Chien's place by the east gate of the campus. By now, everyone was on familiar terms with Mr. Chien. It was hard not to be. His businesses were all over the old campus. On any given day, you could run into the man 4 or 5 times between meals, shopping, haircuts, and the land center. They were practically VIPs at a motel. Molly and Leon always just got one room. Mr. Chien would toss the key card with his signature flourish. Only one left. As for Quinn and Marco, the first time he saw them, he'd automatically toss them a single key card too. But then he paused, looked them over, and threw another one on the counter. "You know what? You two can stay separately for now." The emphasis on "for now" with a masterstroke of insinuation. With Jade and Dylan, there was no suspense. The moment he saw them, he slapped 2 key cards on the counter. One on the 3rd floor, all the way to the left. One on the 2nd floor, all the way to the right. "Don't worry," he'd added to Dylan, his tone full of humanitarian concern. They're as far apart as possible. The kindness nearly brought Dylan to his knees. They stood up from the sand, gathering all their trash to take with them. Molly was so tired, she was already asleep on her boyfriend's broad back. Leon carried his petite girlfriend effortlessly, careful not to move too much and wake her. As for the other sleeping girl, Anna, the responsibility naturally fell to her brother, Leo. As he shifted her onto his back, he sighed. The life of a big brother. All worry all the time, not a single perk to be seen. Beside him, Claire gave him a light smack, half annoyed and half amused. A brother taking care of his sister shouldn't be thinking about perks. But looking at her sister-in-law resting so comfortably on her boyfriend's back, Claire couldn't help but feel a little jealous. She glanced at Leo and said softly, "You've never carried me on your back before." Leo paused, then quickly protested. "When you were drunk, I gave you a princess carry. Piggybacks are for cargo." Claire pouted. "I don't care. Next time I want a piggyback." The rarely seen sight of the cool campus queen of Berkeley pouting and acting jealous was, under the moonlight, enough to make Leo's heart skip a beat. He quickly nodded without a second thought. "Deal. Next time for sure." Satisfied, the girl smiled and leaned in to give her boyfriend a reward. Leo saw it coming and happily turned to meet her. In his haste, he forgot about the person on his back. As he turned, Anna's head swung with him and smacked into a nearby tree trunk with a solid, dull thud. The sound nearly woke the half-asleep Anna. She frowned, subconsciously rubbing her head and muttering up before slumping back down on his back and falling asleep again. "Leo, Claire." The air froze for a moment. Claire stared at her boyfriend. "Last time Annie Cakes had a headache when she was drunk. That was you too, wasn't it?" Leo was silent for a moment, then said, "I will not be making any statements until my lawyer is present." The group said their goodbyes at the intersection. Leo and Claire took Anna back to the LNS house. After settling Anna in the guest room, the couple went to their own room, washed up, and got into bed. The lights were off. Lying in the dark, Leo stared up at the ceiling, lost in thought. Beside him, the girl in the blanket stirred, gently kicking him with her foot. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, her voice soft with curiosity and concern. He came back to himself and shook his head with a smile. "Nothing." She turned on her side to face him. In the darkness, her bright eyes were clear and gentle. "You can tell me anything, you know. No secrets between us." Leo thought for a moment. "You sure?" Claire made a soft MHM and reached out under the covers to take his hand. Her touch was soft and warm. The atmosphere was peaceful and sweet. Until the next second, when he spoke with perfect sincerity. "What do you think about getting one of those pleasure waterbeds for our house?" His words were cut short by a loud thump. A certain handsome young man had just been unceremoniously kicked out of bed by Ms. Bertha Sue. "In your dreams. Go to sleep." The next day, Sunday, Leo woke up early. After a flurry of activity in the kitchen, he soon had a piping hot breakfast on the table. It had all become second nature. As he set down the last of the bowls and utensils, his gaze swept over the tabletop, and he paused. Memories from his past life surfaced. In college, he'd lived in the dorms. It wasn't until after graduation, when he'd started working, that he rented his own place. To save money, he cooked for himself every day. That's when he'd slowly honed his skills in the kitchen. But back then, it was always just him, alone in a tiny studio apartment, not even 200 square feet, sitting by himself at a small table. No matter how fragrant the food was, meals were always a lonely, quiet affair. Not like now. He looked at the 2 sets of plates and silverware on the table, at the steam rising from the food, and a small smile touched his lips. In this new life, even without any earth-shattering achievements, just having one more person to share a meal with made it all worthwhile. His eyes drifted to the side of the table, and he froze again. Oh, he'd forgotten a set of silverware. He'd forgotten about the third wheel, the single dog. He turned and went back to the kitchen. Just as he was coming out with the third set, footsteps sounded on the stairs. Anna came down, rubbing her sleepy eyes and clinging to the railing for support. Leo glanced up. "You're up." Anna mumbled, rubbing the back of her head as she descended. "Ugh, why does my head hurt again?" Leo placed the third set of utensils on the table. His hands stiffened for a fraction of a second at her words, but his expression remained calm, his voice steady. "You must have had too much to drink again yesterday." Annie Cakes looked utterly baffled. "Did I? That's so weird. I never get headaches when I drink." She mused. "I've been here twice, and I've gotten a headache both times." Leo's face didn't betray a hint of a blush. "Just a coincidence." He continued, his voice unwavering. "Your sister-in-law and I brought you home last night. It's not like we could have dropped you or bumped your head on something without noticing. Anna thought about it and nodded in agreement. That's true. Unless you two were so busy being all sweet and lovey-dovey that you forgot about me, and I accidentally hit a tree. Huh. The idea of her own joke made her crack up. Leo wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, remaining composed. How is that possible? If that really happened, wouldn't your sister-in-law and I'd be the most heartless people ever? Ha ha. As they talked, Anna had made her way to the table. She leaned in, sniffing the air. When the aroma of the food hit her, her eyes lit up. Smells amazing. She sat down, ready to dig in, but then froze, looking up at Leo with suspicion. Who made this breakfast? Are any of these your sister-in-law's creations? Leo smiled. Go ahead and eat. I made everything. She's not down yet. That one sentence was all Anna needed to hear. She let out a sigh of relief. Good. Relax now. She picked up her fork and started eating, her mouth full as she mumbled her review. That's delish. Leo shook his head, exasperated. Slow down. Hey, that fried egg is mine. Don't eat them all. Just then, Anna subconsciously reached up and rubbed the back of her head, sucking in a sharp breath. Ow, it hurts again. Leo fell silent. Eat up. If it's not enough, I'll go make you a couple more. His conscience was suddenly screaming at him. He turned and practically fled back into the kitchen. He fried 2 more eggs and was carrying the plate out when Claire, freshly washed up, came downstairs. She walked over gracefully, hand behind her back. Everyone's up. Leo casually placed the fried eggs on the table, turning to his girlfriend with a welcoming smile. Yep, come sit and eat. Claire glanced at the lavish spread and nodded with a grin. Okay. She walked up, stood on her tiptoes, and planted a soft kiss on his lips. Thank you for your hard work. Anna couldn't take it anymore. Hey, can we not have a side of PDA with breakfast? The couple exchanged a smile and sat down. Claire's eyes scanned the table and landed on the pile of fried eggs on the plate, surprised. Why do you make so many? Anna, still eating, answered casually, right? I was wondering the same thing, Claire. It's like Leo's a completely different person today. I said I wanted more eggs, and he was actually nice enough to make them for me. Watching her sister-in-law devour one egg after another, Claire frowned slightly. You shouldn't eat too many fried eggs in the morning. It's not good for you. Annie Cakes waved a dismissive hand. It's fine. My head hurts. I need some eggs to recover. Oh, by the way, Claire, she added, I was just joking with Leo. I asked him if maybe you two were so caught up in being lovey-dovey last night that you accidentally knocked my head into a tree. I mean, Leo's totally the type to do something like that, but you'd never be that mean, right? Huh? Claire said nothing. She took a shallow breath, her expression composed as she placed another fried egg on her sister-in-law's plate. Eat more. If it's not enough, I'll have your brother make you some more. A sister-in-law whose conscience was also under attack. The atmosphere was harmonious as the brother, sister-in-law, and little sister ate breakfast together. After eating her fill, Anna wiped her mouth with a napkin and mentioned that she had to head back to school soon. Claire tried to convince her to stay a little longer. You don't have to rush off. I'll make you lunch. Anna went silent. Suddenly, she had another compelling reason to leave. But she explained her situation to Leo and Claire. As a junior in her second semester, she needed to start looking for internships and had a lot to take care of at school. She'd skipped 2 grades. Her reputation as a certified genius wasn't just for show. As she spoke, Anna grew a little wistful. College is flying by. You two should have come to Berkeley sooner. Now I'm about to become a working adult, stuck in a 9-to-5. I won't be able to hang out with you all the time anymore. Leo listened with a knowing look. It was true. Though he constantly called her his stupid little sister, she was not only stunningly beautiful, but also exceptionally brilliant when it came to academics and her career. In his past life, hadn't she become something of a powerhouse in the business world? At that moment, Claire was in the kitchen getting some oatmeal. At the table, Leo looked at Anna, remembering her finance major, and said casually, Why don't you just come work for me when you're done? Anna paused, looking up with a question mark practically floating over her head. Work for you. Leo straightened his collar, striking a casual pose. Your brother has his own company now. A startup. Stick with me. I'll make you a rich little lady in no time. Anna rolled her eyes. Get out of here. You with a startup? More like starting up a collision with a truck. Leo froze, a complex expression crossing his face. You're probably not going to believe this. Your brother really has been started up by a truck. Anna's casual jab nearly landed a critical hit. Even though he'd been reborn for over half a year, the memory of that rainy night at the intersection, of the searing pain that had ripped through him in that final moment, still sent an involuntary shiver down his spine. The hell with trucks. Taking a moment to compose himself, Leo shot a sidelong glance at Anna. So, you're really not interested? Miss this chance to live the high life, and you'll regret it later. Setting aside everything else, the two projects he had going, the soon-to-be-launched Happy Nest and the Battle Through the Heavens browser game, were set to take off within the year. Even if he did nothing else, the shares in Happy Nest and the cash cow of the game would be enough to make him a wealthy man for the rest of his life, completely carefree. But Anna wasn't buying it at all. She just rolled her eyes again. Only a fool would regret it. The high life? I'd be lucky if I didn't starve to death working for you. Just then, Claire returned from the kitchen with a bowl of oatmeal. Hearing the siblings bickering, she smiled and asked, "What are you two talking about?" Anna pouted. "Leo the pig is trying to trick me into being his slave laborer, claiming he has a startup. With that kind of time, I'd be better off clinging to my sister-in-law's leg and living off her. Right, Claire?" With that, she scurried over and wrapped her arms around Claire's waist, an eager, fawning look on her face. Leo shook his head and sighed. Truly a stupid little sister, ignoring the golden opportunity that was her reborn older brother to go suck up to her sister-in-law. What? Did she think Claire was reborn too? Claire, however, nodded readily, patting her sister-in-law's head. Of course. When you graduate, come to Sterling Holdings. We can work together. As she said it, Claire couldn't help but smile. It really was the world's timeline converging. In her past life, Anna had been her most capable and trusted subordinate and ally at Sterling Holdings. In this life, thanks to a certain someone, it seemed that was settled several years ahead of schedule. But truthfully, in this life, she wasn't in any rush to take over the reins of Sterling Holdings. She had fought in the corporate world for so many years. This time around, she just wanted to experience the simple joys of a normal life, to live in a sweet little world with her silly idiot. Besides, Charles Sterling was still in his prime. There was no need to rush the old man into retirement. Come to think of it, she was tired of being called Chairwoman Sterling and Ms. Sterling. The future a certain someone had painted for her was far more appealing. The title of boss's wife was definitely more enticing. But she had no idea how much entrepreneurial talent her little boyfriend actually possessed, or how long it would take for him to fulfill her dream of being addressed as boss's wife by a crowd of people. If he couldn't pull it off, maybe she should take matters into her own hands? The Sterling heiress mused. Getting the people at Sterling Holdings to change how they addressed her was a pretty good idea. Maybe Charles Sterling should retire early after all. After breakfast, Anna bid a breezy farewell to her brother and sister-in-law and left. The house was now empty except for the happy couple, Leo Hammer and Bertha Sue. Leo looked at his girlfriend. "So what should we do today?" Claire tilted her head, thinking for a moment. "Let's go for a drive." Leo blinked. Question mark. He was instantly stunned, a joyful look flashing across his face, which he quickly tried to mask with an air of righteousness. A drive on a Sunday morning. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? But if you really want to, I suppose I could be persuaded. Oh, right. I heard there's a special friendship bed in the house. Why don't you find the remote, and we can try it out? Before he could finish, a sharp flick from a slender finger landed on his forehead. What are you thinking, you little pervert? Claire looked at her boyfriend, half annoyed, half amused. I mean a real drive. With a car. They had previously asked Mr. Joe to get in touch with a local driving school run by military veterans on the outskirts of the city. The couple had studied up, and last week they'd taken a trip to the DMV and passed their written tests. They'd also made an appointment with the driving school for this weekend. The plan was to go this morning and knock out the road test and skills test all at once. Normally, most people would prepare for these two tests separately, but for a pair of old pros like Leo and Claire, that was an unnecessary hassle. Conveniently, the driving school here allowed for consecutive testing, which saved them some time. When it was time, Leo and Claire took a cab. The person who greeted them at the school was one of Mr. Joe's old subordinates. He was incredibly warm and quickly got them registered for their exams. The morning passed in a blur. Both of them passed with ease. Even the examiners and instructors at the school couldn't help but marvel. You two are so skilled. You don't look like beginners at all. It's like you've been driving for over a decade. Reasonable had come along to join the fun. Hearing the instructor's comments, the portly parrot flapped its wings in enthusiastic agreement. Old pros. Old pros. Fast and dirty. Fast and dirty. After leaving the driving school, the couple took the bus back to the LNS house with their parrot. On the way home, Claire looked out the window at the bright sunlight, the lush green trees, and the distant blue sea, a smile spreading across her face. Spring is really here. Leo hummed, naturally taking her hand in his. Then he remembered something. All right, at the end of the month, a few of the departments at my school are probably going on a spring trip. They're finding a place around the city to get some fresh air. He'd forgotten to mention it earlier, so this was the first Claire was hearing of it. She raised an eyebrow. You're going with your classmates? Ms. Bertha Sue was suddenly reminded of the certain female classmates who once had designs on her man. The air inside the bus mysteriously began to drop in temperature. Beside them, Reasonable shivered and looked around, bewildered. Killing intent? Fortunately, Leo quickly added, we're allowed to bring family. The girl's brow immediately unfurrowed, and the temperature in the air shot back up. Seeing his girlfriend's face change so quickly, Leo couldn't help but smile. He decided to tease her, asking knowingly, what, you want to go? Claire affected an air of nonchalance. Not really. You mentioned it too late. I might have class then. I probably won't have time. Leo nodded, pretending to understand. Oh, well, forget it then. Your classes are more important. I guess I won't take you on the trip this time. Before he could finish his sentence, a fragrant breeze brushed his face. Leo felt a slight tingling on his left earlobe as a pair of soft, moist lips clamped down on it hard. A threatening whisper from a certain young woman hissed in his ear, You're not taking me? Who else were you planning to take? Their advisor, Alex, had mentioned a spring trip at the beginning of the month. As the date drew closer, the specific location and plans were still in flux, nothing completely finalized. On one hand, they had to meet the students' expectations of having a good time. On the other hand, the school had to consider safety and security. As the advisor, Alex was caught in the middle, listening to opinions and directives from all sides, while also managing the department's basketball tournament. He was so busy his hair was turning gray. So far, all we've confirmed is that it will be a 3-day, 2-night trip, Leo explained to Claire as they entered the LNS house. But the exact location and all the arrangements are still up in the air. Claire, taking off her shoes, frowned instinctively. Their efficiency is that low. In her past life as the chairwoman of Sterling Holdings, her management style had been decisive and swift. Once a task was assigned, she wouldn't tolerate any delays from her subordinates. Leo laughed. It's not really low efficiency. It's just that the department has a lot to consider. It's not just student safety. There's also the budget to think about. A portion of the trip is paid for by class funds, and the department pitches in a little. If they try to save too much money, it won't be fun. But if they raise the budget too much, neither the school nor the students can really afford it. Claire understood. She saw the dilemma. But problems were meant to be solved. The girl thought for a moment, then looked at her boyfriend. How about I handle it? I can cover whatever the budget is short. Her tone was utterly casual. The great heiress of the Sterling family couldn't be bothered with such trivial sums. How could a paltry amount of money stand in the way of her going on a spring trip with her boyfriend? Not even the sky falling could stop her. Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. No, that's not necessary. Just let the advisor and the department handle it. We'll just wait for news. He finally managed to talk his girlfriend down. But then, as if a new idea had struck her, Claire's eyes lit up. I'm going to go try on some outfits to see what I should wear for the trip. With that, she scurried upstairs. Leo couldn't help but smile. It was rare to see Ms. Bertha Sue so enthusiastic about something, and as her boyfriend, he certainly wasn't going to spoil her fun. It's just trying on clothes. Let her try them on. Soon, he wasn't smiling anymore. He had discovered 2 universal truths. 1. When a creature known as a girlfriend says she's going to try on clothes, it's best to get as far away as possible. 2. When a girlfriend says she's just going to try on a couple of outfits, it will never, ever be just a couple. For the first 30 minutes, as Claire continuously appeared at the top of the stairs in a succession of different styles and walked down to ask for his opinion, Leo sat upright on the living room couch, offering his serious critiques and suggestions. During the second 30 minutes, the girl's fashion show continued unabated. By then, he was starting to get a little dazed. Seriously, is her closet some kind of magical, infinite dormant pocket? How many outfits can possibly be in there? Is she not done yet? An hour and a half later, Ms. Bertha Sue, still full of energy and enjoying herself immensely, descended the stairs in yet another new outfit. She did a little twirl in front of him, raising an eyebrow at her boyfriend. How about this one? The handsome young man was now lying limply on the sofa. They're all fine. They're all fine. Such an evaluation did not satisfy the girl. Claire looked at herself in the full-length mirror and frowned. Too flashy. I'll go change into another one. She turned, ready to head back upstairs. Leo quickly called out to stop her, pleading, That's enough. The ones you already tried on were all great. Besides, you look good in anything. And the trip isn't until the end of the month. There's no need to pick out clothes this early. Claire finally stopped, considered it, and nodded. All right, I'll stop for now. Leo let out a sigh of relief. A wave of drowsiness washed over him, and he was about to lie down for a nap. The next second, he heard the girl muttering to herself, "There's still a few that go with stockings. Oh well, I'll just try them on by myself next time." An imaginary, miniature version of himself inside his head frantically slapped him across the face. "Napping? Are you crazy? Get the hell up." Leo shot up from the sofa, suddenly wide awake and full of vigor. But then again, we've already tried on so many. What's a few more? He spent another half hour helping his girlfriend try on and pair different outfits. In the end, he had feasted his eyes and was thoroughly satisfied. Claire, too, had finally settled on a white sundress with a light blue cardigan. After listening to a torrent of compliments from Leo, the girl finally looked pleased, admiring herself in the full-length mirror. Leo, his throat dry from all the flattery, had been feeling drowsy again. But looking up at his girlfriend's slightly giddy and joyful expression as she checked herself out in the mirror, he couldn't help but smile. The fatigue from the past couple of hours seemed to vanish in a thin air. As long as Ms. Bertha Sue was happy, being a couple was all about accompanying each other through these small, everyday moments. As a proper boyfriend, if you weren't even going to dote on and pamper your own girlfriend, what was the point of being in a relationship? Oh, right. Some of you wouldn't know. The new week began on Monday. Leo and Claire returned to campus from the LNS house early in the morning. They attended their separate classes. In Leo's advertising class, the students were already buzzing with excitement, discussing the upcoming spring trip and speculating on the destination. In the back row, the members of room 520 sat together, as usual. Marco Shaw leaned over eagerly. "Latest intel. I heard from Alex. There are a few potential locations right now. One option is to head south to Clear Creek, a historic water town. The other is to go west, about 200 miles from the city, to a place called Spirit Springs Mountain. There are farm-to-table inns at the base and hot springs on the mountain." At this, Marco glanced around conspiratorially and lowered his voice. "Listen, when we vote, we have to pick the second one." Leon and Dylan didn't seem particularly interested. Monday afternoon was still advertising design class on the new campus. After their morning classes ended, Leo and his roommates from room 520 swung by the campus convenience store, grabbed some bread and milk for a quick lunch, and headed to the parking lot to catch the campus shuttle. Along the way, the advertising students gazed out the window at the brilliant spring scenery, their imaginations running wild about the upcoming trip. Marco Shaw worked his way from the front of the bus to the back, whispering conspiratorially with all the guys in the class. Familiar keywords could be faintly heard: hot springs, co-ed bathing, remember to vote. One by one, the guys' eyes lit up like light bulbs. They nodded vigorously, a silent, mutual understanding passing between them. In the back, by the window, Leo was texting Claire. He casually brought up the two possible trip locations and asked which one she preferred. Her reply came back quickly. The girl didn't hesitate. "Clear Creek Historic Town. I've always wanted to go there, but never had the chance. This time of year, a historic town like that should be beautiful." Leo paused, then typed a casual reply. "That's true, but I think the farm-to-table inn at Spirit Springs Mountain sounds pretty good too." Claire's message came back instantly. "A farm-to-table inn? I bet someone's more interested in the hot springs there." The text was punctuated with a smiling emoji, as if she had seen right through his little scheme. Leo's hands froze. He quickly composed a righteous reply. "Ms. Bertha Sue, I think you have the wrong impression of your boyfriend. What interest would I have in hot springs? It's no different than taking a bath at home, right?" A third message from Miss Bertha Sue arrived, just as nonchalant. "Who knows? Maybe the hot springs there are co-ed or something, right?" Leo: "Oh no, she's a psychic. How can this fox see into my soul?" Though a storm was raging in his heart, on the surface, he remained calm, typing out his reply. "I don't know what you're talking about. Co-ed bathing is completely unheard of." He sent the message. A moment later, another text came from Claire. "Is that so? That's a shame. If it really was co-ed, I was just about to buy a new swimsuit online. Too bad a certain little pervert won't get to see it now." This one was a picture message. Attached to the text was an image. Leo instinctively scrolled down. His eyes fell upon the picture. Sexy_swimsuit. JPG. It was a two-piece design, breathtaking and utterly eye-catching. He just stared, completely stunned. His mind subconsciously conjured an image of that swimsuit on a certain foxy girl's body. A cascade of censored, R-rated words flooded his brain, dancing wildly. The information overload was too much, the image too powerful. His head buzzed, on the verge of exploding. Beside him, Leon, Dylan, and Marco, who had just returned to his seat, glanced over and were shocked by the sight of Leo's face. Holy crap! What's wrong with you, Leo? Why is your nose bleeding? Leo wiped his nose, trying to calm his wildly twitching eyes. It's nothing. A succubus is messing with my mind. He then turned to Marco, grabbing his hand and shaking it firmly, his voice filled with gravity. The vote for the trip is in your hands. Spirit Springs Mountain. It has to be Spirit Springs Mountain. The shuttle sped forward through the bright spring day. In the back seat, a certain handsome young man muttered to himself, "My resolve is firm, my resolve is firm," all while being unable to resist pulling out his phone to look at the picture of the swimsuit again. Each glance shattered his resolve a little more. Eventually, his roommates from room 520 grew concerned. "Leo, what are you staring at on your phone? What's on there?" Leo put his phone down and gazed out the window with a sigh. A view of infinite spring. No matter how far his fantasies drifted, the trip was still weeks away. But some things couldn't wait. Today was March 17th, the final day in the countdown to Happiness launch. A call from David Chung finally pulled his thoughts back to business. David had probably been working overtime at the company all weekend. His voice on the phone sounded exhausted, but underneath the fatigue was an undeniable frenetic energy. "Everything is ready. Tomorrow is the big exam." David urged his chief strategy officer to come by today to help with one final round of testing and approval. Leo agreed without hesitation. That afternoon, back at Berkeley, the advertising class was in the middle of a design lecture. During class, David, unable to restrain himself, had sent him several more urgent texts. So had Penny Fong and Owen Wu from Happiness Core Management. Even Hannah Ling, the former it girl of the electrical engineering department and now a member of the tech team, had messaged him. His employees were all asking the same thing. "Mr. Wallace, when are you coming? Everyone's waiting for you. Still in class." "Fine. How about I drive over and pick you up? The former girl of Berkeley's engineering department, chauffeuring you personally. I promise I won't embarrass you, Mr. Wallace." She was even resorting to a honey trap. They were trying every trick in the book to get their chief strategy officer to the office as soon as possible. Since Leo's first appearance at Happy Nest, he had, without realizing it, earned the complete and utter respect of every employee with his strategic vision and his ability to effortlessly solve one problem after another. A strange, almost mystical belief had even sprung up among them. No matter how big the problem, no matter how dire the situation, as long as Mr. Wallace was there, he was like an anchor in a storm, capable of calming everyone's nerves and making them feel at ease. Leo couldn't help but chuckle at this fawning attitude from his subordinates, who were, on average, at least 6 or 7 years older than him. He texted them back one by one, promising to be there as soon as possible. However, before class even ended, he received another text. The contact name read, "Isabella the Clueless, natural-born worker bee, gullible, judo flipped 3 times, holds a grudge against Kevin Zhao." The contact name was a novel, but the message from the department's it girl was concise. Art Studio 204. Progress report. The Happy Nest crew was in a hurry, but his Battle Through the Heavens browser game project couldn't fall behind either. This was especially true when dealing with his one and only true subordinate. When she was proactively reporting on her work, he couldn't afford to neglect her. In a startup, it was one thing to exploit your employees, but you at least had to keep them happy and make them feel the warmth and importance of their boss's attention. Otherwise, wouldn't he be a terrible Kevin Zhao? Having made up his mind, Leo headed to Art Studio 204 after class. This time, there were no surprises. Isabella the Clueless was sitting obediently at an easel, with no apparent plans to take revenge with another judo throw. Though as he walked in, her large, clear-as-a-lake eyes followed him, scanning him up and down. It was obvious she hadn't given up on settling the score one day. Leo felt a bit uneasy under her gaze. "What are you looking at?" Isabella instantly reverted to a look of nonchalance. "Nothing. Just admiring how handsome you are, boss." The flattery was completely devoid of sincerity. At the same time, the girl was muttering to herself, "Damn it, can't find an opening. Revenge will have to wait. Next time for sure." Leo, completely oblivious, just waved his hand dismissively. "You don't have to state the obvious in the future. Let's get to the report." It was supposed to be a work report, but there was nothing particularly complicated. Isabella handed Leo a stack of new concept art to review. As per his request, the designs had been further refined from the initial character sketches. Adhering to the Legs for Days and Assets principle, the department's it girl was venturing further and further down this path of righteous creation. Leo flipped through the sketches. He was satisfied, but he also offered Isabella some new feedback and requirements. Isabella listened intently, taking diligent notes. After writing everything down, she counted the new tasks and was secretly relieved to find that there weren't too many. After the art review was done, Team Leader Zhao was about to report on her recruitment progress. I have 4 confirmed people now. I've reviewed their portfolios, and their skills are up to par. I had them do a few versions of the battle through the Heavens character designs, and there were no problems. I asked them all to come today. They should be here any minute. Do you want to meet them? As the boss, he really should meet the new employees. But in that short time, his phone had already been bombarded with another wave of text from David Chung and others at Happy Nest. He decided to save himself the effort for now. I have something else to do, so I'll skip meeting them for now. You're the team leader. You can manage them directly. As he spoke, he gave a magnanimous wave of his hand. I trust you. That one sentence was enough to make Ms. Clueless dizzy with delight, though she tried to maintain an air of indifference. Well, even if you praise me like that, it's not going to make me happy or anything. Leo paid her no mind, pocketed his phone, and turned to leave. As he walked out the door, he waved over his shoulder. I'm heading out. Oh, right, there are some more specific details and feedback for the art. I discussed them with the original author of the novel. I sent the document to your email, so be sure to check it. With that, he was gone. Some requirements? Email. Isabella suddenly had a bad feeling. She quickly pulled out her phone, her hands trembling as she opened her email and clicked on the new Word document. A dense wall of 60 or 70 detailed requirements filled the screen. Some requirements. A ton of requirements. Heavy checkmark. The world suddenly went dark for the department's a girl. Damn it, I've been tricked again. Just then, a few other art students walked in. 3 girls and 1 guy. They all greeted Isabella as they entered. Isabella, class president. These 4 were the new Mako Entertainment employees that Team Leader Zhao had recently recruited. Since Isabella was the class president of the art department, she had simply recruited familiar classmates, so they all knew each other well. One of the girls looked around curiously. Weren't we supposed to meet the boss today? Where is he? Isabella ground her teeth. He left, scurried off like a thief. The other students looked a little disappointed. They had joined Mako Entertainment partly because they were interested in the game's art, and partly because they were drawn by the impressive $4,000 a month salary after the probationary period. They had heard the boss was a Berkeley student around their own age, which had naturally piqued their curiosity. Another girl looked at Isabella and asked, So, what's the deal with our boss? Is he from a rich family? How did you 2 meet? The other 3 also turned their gazes on her, their eyes full of gossipy curiosity. How do we meet? Isabella paused, her expression nonchalant. I forgot, though she said that she subconsciously thought of the judo throw in the hallway during their first meeting. She couldn't help but reach back and rub her, but it still felt faintly sore. Her answer obviously didn't satisfy her classmates. The only guy among the new recruits pressed on, Come on, class president, you have to give us some inside scoop. What's our boss like? Is he easy to work with? What's he like? An image of that perpetually calm and composed face floated into Isabella's mind, and she felt another surge of irritation. He's not great. He's a smooth talker, a black-hearted capitalist, and he plays rough. She instinctively rubbed her, but again, her classmates were taken aback. Plays rough. Isabella snapped back to reality and quickly cleared her throat. It's nothing. Then she looked at her 4 new employees with a serious expression. In short, he's not a good person. From now on, we're all going to hate him together. The moment the words left her mouth, her phone chimed with a new text. Isabella subconsciously picked it up and read the message. By the way, the $500 referral bonus per person we agreed on, $2,000 total, will be transferred to your account soon. Isabella froze. Her 4 new Mako Entertainment colleagues looked at her, confused. Isabella, what's wrong? Are you okay? Snapping out of it and rereading the message to confirm it was real, the department's girl looked up, her face beaming with joy. Oh, it's nothing. Were we? Oh, right. Our boss is a good person. From now on, we're all going to love and respect him together. The 4 new employees. ? As Leo walked out of the campus gates, he saw a familiar Buick LaCrosse parked at the entrance. It really was Hannah Ling, the golden girl of Happy Nest, who had come pick him up. Seeing the company's chief strategy officer emerge, the front passenger window rolled down swiftly. Hannah, in the driver's seat, waved enthusiastically. Mr. Wallace, over here. Her face was a picture of eager warmth. Passing Berkeley students who saw the beautiful woman in the driver's seat couldn't help but stare, their gazes then shifting to the person she was waving at, which brought on another wave of shock. Holy shit, a hot rich girl keeping a young college student? The world has gone to hell. Why couldn't that be me? I, Joe Schmo, have some looks and at least one of. Amidst the envious and amazed stares of his fellow students, Leo got into the car. Hannah stepped on the gas, and the car sped off. On the way back to the Happy Nest office, she couldn't help but grumble to the CSO beside her. Really, Mr. Wallace, the entire company is on high alert, waiting for the site to go live tomorrow. This is a huge deal, and you're just casually attending class at school. Like it's no big deal. Leo was looking down at his phone, texting Claire his usual report on his whereabouts. He replied casually to Hannah, I'm just a strategist. I'm in charge of the big picture. The product has already been finalized. The rest is up to you guys. I have faith in you. Hannah shook her head so hard it was a blur. You have faith, but we don't have faith in ourselves. We still need you here. You're our lucky charm now. Even if you don't do anything, just having you at the office makes everyone feel at ease. While driving, Hannah glanced at Leo, who was still engrossed in his phone. She pouted. You say you were in class. A guy with your skills, still hanging around campus all day. I bet you have a girlfriend. Lost in the throes of passion. Huh. Leo chuckled. Don't worry. I'm not the type to let a relationship affect my work. Just then, he received a text from Ms. Bertha Sue. She mentioned offhandedly that the swimsuit from this morning had just been delivered to the LNS house, and that she was thinking of trying it on when she got back. Leo's blood instantly boiled. He typed furiously, Wait for me to join you. I'll be back within the hour. Work? What work? Helping my girlfriend try on a swimsuit is a boyfriend's most sacred duty. Hannah had no idea what kind of conversation her young boss was having with his girlfriend. She just asked curiously, So you really are in a relationship? Her interest was piqued. What does your girlfriend look like, Mr. Wallace? Is she as pretty as me? Leo turned to look at Hannah beside him. Feeling his gaze, Hannah deliberately and proudly tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, giving her CSO a better view of her pretty face. The former girl of Berkeley's electrical engineering department definitely had the looks to back up her reputation. Leo gave his objective assessment. You're an 8. Hannah beamed. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Wallace. You flatter me. So what about your girlfriend? Without a moment's hesitation, Leo replied, She's an 800. Hannah. When they arrived at the office, the atmosphere inside the 2-story building was thick with a solemn tension. It was the final day in the countdown to Happy Nest launch. The usual buzz and chaotic energy were gone. Everyone was at their desks, their expressions serious as they performed final checks, testing and retesting, occasionally murmuring to one another. It felt like the calm before a great battle. It wasn't until Hannah walked in with Leo that the mood shifted. People looked up instinctively, and seeing their chief strategy officer, their grave faces broke into expressions of relief and surprise. Mr. Wallace is here. The atmosphere suddenly became lighter, more energized. David Chung, who had been in discussion with a few key team members, quickly stood up and came over. You're here. Leo nodded. Yeah, how's progress? David took a deep breath. We've done everything we can. It's just, I still feel a little uncertain. He lowered his voice for the last part, so only Leo could hear. Leo looked at David, noticing the dark circles under the CEO's eyes that suggested 3 sleepless nights and the acrid smell of stale smoke clinging to him. Then his gaze swept across the office, taking in the exhausted but determined faces of the Happy Nest team. He heard the crisp, incessant clicking of keyboards from every corner. After a moment, he clapped David on the shoulder. You go rest. I'll watch over things here. His voice was calm, but it seemed to carry a reassuring power. David let out a long sigh of relief. He didn't stand on ceremony with Leo. All right, I'll just take 30 minutes. The handover was simple and direct. As David went into his office and closed the door for a short rest, Leo pulled up a chair to an empty desk. He looked out at the assembled team and smiled. I'll be sitting right here for a while. If you have any questions, you can come to me. Many years later, some of the founding members of Happy Nest would remain, while others would go on to different paths, all of them becoming true pillars and even executives at top internet companies around the world. But when they looked back on this night, the memory was still fresh. It was the night before the launch of Happy Nest. The lights of the office building burned brightly. The company's elite team worked with a tense, orderly focus, speaking in low voices. And every now and then, their gazes would subconsciously drift toward the desk by the window. The image they saw was of a handsome, composed young man, sitting at the desk, looking over documents and plans, quietly answering questions and offering guidance to the employees who approach him. Even if they couldn't hear the specific words, just the sight of that figure was enough to bring a strange sense of peace and calm to them all. In the end, He wasn't able to finish his work in an hour. By the time he left the Happy Nest office and took a cab back to the LNS house, the night sky was once again filled with a high, bright moon and a smattering of stars. The streetlights along the neighborhood roads cast a soft, yellow glow, painting the pavement in a warm, golden hue. March 18th, Tuesday. There was a big English lecture first thing in the morning. While a certain Miss Bertha Sue was still comfortably sleeping in, a certain someone else had to rush all the way from the LNS house back to campus. He slid into his seat in the back row just as the bell rang, letting out a sigh of relief. His roommates from room 520 looked at him with pity. Forgot you had class this morning, didn't you? Was it worth it? You just had to go back to the singles slaughterhouse yesterday. Comrade Wallace, the arms of a beautiful woman are the tomb of a hero. His roommates lectured him earnestly, but Leo's mind was involuntarily replaying the breathtaking scene from last night. His girlfriend, emerging from the room in her newly purchased swimsuit. Her slender hands held in front of her, unable to conceal the stunning spring scenery. The light, two-piece fabric perfectly outlining her tantalizing curves. Her snow-white, delicate skin. Her graceful, alluring figure. And to top it all off, the blush on her cheeks that she tried to hide behind a facade of composure. It was the perfect finishing touch. The memory almost made his nose start bleeding again. He took a deep breath to calm himself, his voice firm. It was worth it. The room 520 trio, ? What was worth it? They stared at their roommate, utterly bewildered. Leo, however, acted as if nothing was wrong. It's nothing. I just saw something epic last night. The question marks above Marco, Leon, and Dylan's heads multiplied. Epic? What was epic? From the front of the room, the English professor's voice drifted back. Everyone, turn in your textbooks. Let's look at question number 36. The answer is D. 36D. His brain, sharply attuned to keywords, once again conjured the breathtaking vision from the night before. He really had seen something epic. Not just fair, but ample. As he thought about it, he felt a familiar warmth in his nostrils. The room 520 trio beside him were stunned. What's wrong with him? Have they been having these internal injuries this often lately? After being roommates for over half a year, Marco, Leon, and Dylan were quite concerned about Leo's physical condition. At lunch, when they met up with the girls from room 205, they even brought it up with Claire. Bertha, you got to keep an eye on Leo. Maybe take him to a doctor or something. He seems really weak lately. The innocent Molly, hearing this, looked worried. She pulled a few snacks her boyfriend had given her out of her pocket. Maybe he should eat some date cakes to replenish his blood. Claire, however, understood immediately. Half annoyed and half amused, she glanced at her boyfriend sitting across from her. He's not weak. I think he has too much pent-up energy. Leo, for his part, looked perfectly righteous. It's fine. It's a minor issue. A good soak in a hot spring should fix it. The conversation naturally turned to the advertising class's spring trip at the end of the month. Quinn Lou's interest was piqued. Hey, have you guys finalized the time and place for your trip? Molly said something about Spirit Springs Mountain. Wasn't Clear Creek Historic Town also an option? A historic town would be perfect this time of year. Great for photos. The four guys from room 520 exchanged a knowing look and declared in unison, their voices firm and righteous. Spirit Springs Mountain. It's confirmed. The organization has unanimously decided on the farm-to-table inn and the hot springs. Molly didn't have a strong preference for hiking or sightseeing, so she asked about something else. But if you can bring family, does that mean just me and Claire can go? Can Jade and Quinn come along too? Marco waved his hand grandly. Of course they can. It doesn't say family has to be a significant other. Quinn and I are like brother and sister. It's not a problem to bring her along. Quinn smiled and put a chicken leg in Marco's bowl. You're a good man. Here you go, little bro. Big sis is treating you to a chicken leg. As for Jade, she naturally claimed Dylan's family spot. The studious girl pushed up her black-framed glasses and looked at Dylan with great interest. If I'm your family, will we be sharing a room? The kind where we can talk all night. Dylan flinched, a look of terror on his face as he shot desperate, pleading glances at his other roommates. Leon kindly interjected to save him. Probably not. I heard the budget is limited, and if we go to Spirit Springs, it's just a small village on the mountain. The inn at the base doesn't have that many rooms. It'll probably be large, shared rooms. Guys and girls will be separate. Jade looked disappointed. Is that so? Dylan let out a sigh of relief, sending a grateful look to his dorm leader. Marco, still on a high, waved his hand again. No problem. Separate rooms don't matter. As long as we can all soak in the hot springs together. He'd let it slip. The girls from room 205 all turned to look at him in unison. Marco, realizing his mistake, nearly broke into a cold sweat. He quickly backtracked. Haha, slip of the tongue, slip of the tongue. I meant as long as our hearts are together, that's all that matters, right? Ha ha ha. After lunch, the two dorms said their goodbyes, ready to head back for a nap. Leo and Claire didn't go back to their dorms. The couple walked hand in hand across campus, letting their food settle. They were a handsome couple, walking side by side, talking and laughing, a perfect match. Everywhere they went, they naturally and reasonably caused a cascade of pupil quakes and envious stares from the Berkeley student body. The collective resentment value for Northwood High ticked up, +1, +1, and +1 again. The couple, long accustomed to this kind of attention, paid no mind to the stares. Bringing up the topic from lunch, Claire tilted her head and looked at her boyfriend, a teasing smile playing on her lips. So, it really is co-ed bathing, isn't it? Leo's face didn't flush, his heart didn't pound. He seamlessly threw Marco under the bus. I wouldn't know. Co-ed bathing, private hot springs for two. I just heard it all from Marco. I simply think that soaking in a hot spring is good for one's health. Claire's lips curved into a slight smile. Is that so? I'm afraid it's going to get a certain little pervert all hot and bothered. Leo instinctively retorted. Well, that's because your outfit last night was too stimulating. Ow, ow. Claire, her expression unchanged, removed the slender foot that had been pressing down on her perverted boyfriend's. Serves you right. But the thought of the swimsuit she had tried on last night, of its daringly revealing allure, made her blush a little. Taking a shallow breath, she changed the subject, feigning nonchalance. So, the hot springs are at Spirit Springs Mountain. That name sounds a little familiar. It wasn't just Claire. Leo found the name familiar too. He had lived and worked in the area for many years in his past life, but he'd never actually been to Spirit Springs Mountain. There were plenty of tourist spots around the city. Not just the adjacent Clear Creek historic town, but even the Golden Sand Beach near their own LNS house was quite famous. Oh, and there was Serenity Peak, where the two of them had confessed their feelings during the snowstorm, renowned for its snowy vistas. The old stone chapel on the mountain was a popular spot for making wishes. He didn't know if it was effective, but the statue in there seemed to be pretty good at handling matters of the heart. It had, after all, personally witnessed the confession of Bertha Sue and Leo Hammer, getting a front row seat to their public display of affection. That reminded Claire of something. We should go back to the chapel sometime. Light a candle for the statue. She wasn't particularly religious herself, but ever since that day, she had felt a sincere gratitude toward that chapel and its statue. Leo wasn't interested in any faith either. A successor to socialism in the new era of the motherland. The bright morning sun. He believed only in science, but that didn't stop him from understanding and supporting his girlfriend's feelings. Sure, we can find some time to go. It had been a while. They could go show off their love to the statue again, rub their relationship in its face. It was an easy enough errand. Getting back to the topic, places like Serenity Peak or Golden Sand Beach all had their own distinct features he could easily describe. But Spirit Springs Mountain, despite its familiarity, didn't bring to mind anything particularly noteworthy. He concluded that he must have heard a friend or colleague mention it in passing in his previous life, or perhaps seen a travel ad in newspaper. It doesn't matter if it's not special, Leo said with a casual air. The hot springs, and then aren't the important part. It's a spring trip. The important thing is going out with a group of friends, having fun together. And of course, as long as I'm with my girlfriend, I'd be happy doing nothing at all. He didn't forget to add a righteous final line, showing off his boyfriend credentials. A smile touched Claire's lips. Ah, such a smooth talker. Leo was indignant. I'm not being smooth. I'm being sincere. The girl raised an eyebrow. Really? You'd be happy doing nothing at all, as long as we're together. Leo didn't hesitate. Absolutely. Claire nodded with a grin. Fine, then I won't bring the swimsuit. The next second, Leo's expression changed, and he quickly amended. But then again, soaking in a hot spring is really good for a girl's health. No other reason. Purely concerned for his girlfriend's well-being. During the class meeting that afternoon, which normally had no real authority in college, with most of the guys skipping to nap or play games at a LAN center, the entire advertising class was present, sitting upright and attentive. Especially the guys. They watched the advisor walk to the front of the room, their necks craned in anticipation. The reason was simple. Today, the final destination and arrangements for the spring trip would be announced. Marco, sitting in the front row, was frantically making the sign of the cross on his chest. Please, God, please. Spirit Springs Mountain, Spirit Springs Mountain. It has to be Spirit Springs Mountain. Leo, sitting beside him, couldn't take it anymore. That's not going to work. The next second, he imparted some sage advice. God doesn't have jurisdiction here. You'd have better luck praying to a bodhisattva. The nearby guys, including Marco, had a collective epiphany. They gave Leo a thumbs up, then clasped their hands together and began fervently praying to various deities. Leon, the date cake guy, a man of action, quietly pulled out a bag of date cakes and placed them on his desk as a pious offering, attempting to bribe the gods. The girls in the class couldn't help but look over puzzled. These guys, what did they suddenly get so religious? Finally, under the watchful eyes of the entire class, the advisor, Alex, stepped on the podium, cleared his throat, and announced the result. For this spring trip, our destination will be Spirit Springs Mountain. The girls in the class hadn't had a strong preference to begin with, so they were happy just to have the location confirmed. The guys, however, erupted in a roar of cheers, high-fiving and celebrating as if it were New Year's. Alex was taken aback by the commotion. He shook his head and continued, looking at the survey results. This time, in the class vote, 2/3 of the girls voted for Clear Creek and 1/3 for Spirit Springs. The guys, it was nearly a unanimous vote for Spirit Springs. Looking at the data, Alex himself was a bit puzzled. Were the guys really this united? There's nothing that special about Spirit Springs. Just the inn and the hot springs. Oh, a 100-year-old spring allows for men and women. There's also a public bath. Alex paused, then it dawned on him. He looked up at the boys in the class and pointed a finger, a mix of amusement and exasperation on his face. You guys, you little rascals are really something else. He was about to pull rank and give them a stern lecture. But the next second, Marco, from the front row, sidled up to him conspiratorially. Alex, don't forget Ms. Sullivan is coming on this trip too. Ms. Sullivan was another female advisor from the humanities department. 26 years old, mature, beautiful, with an excellent figure. She had no shortage of suitors among the faculty, including Alex. Marco's words made him stop short. The advisor's mind involuntarily conjured certain images. His nose suddenly felt warm. Taking a deep breath, Alex calmly and steadily continued. Where was I? Oh, right. You rascals are very united. This is a good thing, worthy of praise. Keep up the good work in the future. Successfully recruited. The advisor had joined their side. Besides announcing the destination, Alex had another piece of good news. Now that we've confirmed Spirit Springs Mountain, the other advisors and I did a rough calculation. The travel and accommodation costs are actually quite a bit lower than for Clear Creek. Coincidentally, there's a partner village and a Hope Primary School that our university supports in that area, so the department has agreed to let everyone stay a few extra days to represent Berkeley and do some outreach activities. So, the final itinerary for this spring trip will be a total of 4 days and 3 nights. The announcement was met with a thunderous cheer from the entire class. Everyone was ecstatic. Doing some volunteer work was a given, but a 4-day, 3-night trip was like a mini vacation. They could really have a blast now. Marco's eyes nearly popped out his head. Holy crap, 4 days and 3 nights. Does that mean we can soak in the hot springs for 3 of those days? We're going to be so wrinkly. The spring trip was set. They would depart next Thursday. After the advisor, Alex, announced the official dates, the classroom buzzed with excitement. The girls were already eagerly discussing what luggage and pretty outfits they would need for a 4-day trip. As for the guys, they were even more enthusiastic, actively jumping into the girls' conversations and offering their own helpful advice. For the hot springs, you should bring a few nice swimsuits. I saw some really good ones online recently. I'll send you the links later. Oh, don't mention it. It's what we should do. We're all classmates. It's our duty to help each other out. They were all so righteous, practically glowing with positive energy. Even the single advisor at the front of the room nearly got sidetracked, subconsciously wondering if he should discuss the hot springs issue with his female colleague, Ms. Sullivan. He suddenly snapped back to reality. He tapped the podium, his expression turning stern again. Hey, it's still a week away. Everyone focus for now. Let's get our actual work done first. The students responded with a chorus of enthusiastic agreement. Don't worry, Alex. We promised to study hard this week. Alex nodded, satisfied. Then he remembered something else. And don't forget about the basketball tournament. The second round of the department tournament was that afternoon. Class 1's opponent was the broadcast journalism class. As soon as the class meeting ended, Leo, Marco, Leon, and the 2 other guys on the team rushed off to the court to warm up. The rest of the class, their cheer squad, would head over after a quick break in their dorms. He had just started shooting some warm-up threes on the court when he sank one and happened to glance over his shoulder. A familiar, stunningly beautiful figure was walking calmly toward him. Leo was a little surprised. He smiled and jogged over to meet her. What are you doing here so early? The game hasn't started yet. Claire, carrying a bag of water bottles and sports drinks, met him with a smile of her own. I know. I didn't have anything to do after class, so I came to watch you warm up. As she spoke, she pulled a water bottle from the bag and handed it to Leo. Then she turned to Marco, Leon, and the others on the court. I bought some for you guys to pick whatever you want. Marco and Leon came trotting over eagerly. Thanks, Bertha. You're the best, Bertha. Leo is so lucky to have you. The two of them were already old friends with Claire, among the first of her loyal followers, so they didn't stand on ceremony. The other two guys on the team, however, were a bit overwhelmed, thanking her nervously as they carefully took the drinks. The moment the bottles were in their hands, they suddenly felt countless stares from all around the court lock onto them, filled with envy and jealousy. The two players couldn't help but stand a little straighter, a strange sense of pride swelling in their chests. Sure, it's secondhand glory, but by extension, we're now men who have been personally gifted drinks by the great campus queen, Claire Sterling. Most people can only dream of this. Thinking this, the two players felt a surge of gratitude toward the man who had made it possible. Suddenly, they weren't jealous anymore. Those two are a perfect match anyway. All hail the ultimate power couple. All hail this reasonable relationship. All hail Northwood. Oh wait, can't cross that line. Screw Northwood High. At 4:30 in the afternoon, the game started on time. The cheer squads for both teams had arrived, and the sidelines were packed with spectators, including students from other classes and even other departments. Most of them had come for the advertising class's star-studded cheering section. Word had gotten around that the advertising cheer squad was a sight to behold, with rumors that even the great Claire Sterling herself would be there. Many students were skeptical at first, but when they arrived and saw the cool, radiant girl standing among the crowd, they were stunned to find it was true. The next second, they were frozen in place, petrified, as they saw the goddess of their dreams calmly raise a cheer sign. G-O-L-E-O. From the family this time, the sign had even been upgraded. At the end of the second line, there was what looked like a lipstick print, and it didn't look like it was printed on. It looked like real lipstick. The Berkeley students, their pupils quaked violently. It felt like the sky was falling. The advertising cheer squad was a force to be reckoned with. Their energy immediately overwhelmed the broadcast journalism team, whose morale took a hit. It wasn't until another beautiful girl appeared that their spirits were revived. The department's a girl is here. We have a beauty cheering for us too. Everyone looked over. Lily Lou was walking gracefully toward them, but then she spotted Leo warming up on the sidelines. After a moment's hesitation, she walked straight toward him. The broadcast journalism students, girl, aren't you going the wrong way? Your team is over here. By then, Lily had reached Leo. He was stretching and looked up to see a familiar face. Oh, you're here too? Lily gave him a gentle smile. Your opponents today are my class. Now that the competition between them was over, Lily was much more relaxed and natural when talking to Leo, like an old friend. By the way, are you guys going to Spirit Springs Mountain for the trip? Leo nodded. Yeah, it was just decided. Lily smiled. What a coincidence. We're going there too. Maybe we can all hang out. She paused, then asked, Is Miss Sterling going too? Leo nodded matter-of-factly. Of course. We're allowed to bring family. Besides, the hot springs there are co-ed. He almost let it slip again, but quickly corrected himself without changing his expression. I mean, soaking in hot springs is good for your health, so I'm taking her to get a good soak. Lily paid no mind to his verbal slip. She just seemed to drift off for a moment, murmuring, Is that so? That's so nice. Her voice held a faint trace of envy and longing. Snapping out of it, Lily quickly composed herself and smiled at Leo. The game's about to start. Good luck out there. With that, she turned and walked back to her own class's cheering section. Perhaps it was a bit of luck, or perhaps it was the massive morale boost from the cheer squad. The basketball game between the advertising and broadcast journalism classes ended with the former winning by a thrilling 2-point margin. With a certain Ms. Bertha Sue personally supervising from the sidelines, Leo, playing shooting guard, was on fire the entire game. He was in the zone, scoring a full 24 points, capping it off with a long 2-point shot at the buzzer to seal the victory. The moment the ball swished through the net, the entire court erupted. The advertising cheer squad went wild, jumping up and down, screaming, Leo is a god. A buzzer beater. Advertising class is the best. Even Claire couldn't contain her excitement. Her face flushed. She waved her family sign high in the air. Beautiful. Then, under the stunned and captivated gazes of the entire crowd, she unabashedly put her fingers to her lips and blew a kiss to her boyfriend on the court. The broadcast journalism players were already dejected from the loss. When they happened to see the great campus queen blow that kiss to Leo, they were completely dumbfounded. A moment later, they looked like they were about to cry. Losing the game is one thing, but did the other team have to hit us with a psychic finishing move too? After the game, everyone rushed toward Leo. His teammates were especially eager, crowding around to high-five him and slap him on the back in celebration. Marco was ecstatic, slapping Leo's shoulder repeatedly. "You were awesome, man. Holy crap, that shot. It was insane. I'm going to tell Alex right away. They have to reserve a private hot spring for two for you and Bertha at Spirit Springs." Leo was smiling and waving his hands modestly. "It's nothing. It was a team effort." He heard the last part of Marco's sentence, and his heart skipped a beat. "Well, you better remember to tell him." Once the excited crowd had thinned out a bit, Claire finally made her way over. She handed him a bottle of water, then carefully wiped the sweat from his brow with a towel. She looked up at him, her eyes twinkling. "That last shot was very handsome." Leo looked completely righteous. "It was nothing, all thanks to Ms. Sterling's supervision." The next second, he looked at his girlfriend with eager anticipation. "We won the game, so about that reward we talked about." Claire was both amused and annoyed. "You little pervert. All you can think about is your reward." Huh. She paused, glancing around, then added in a quiet, nonchalant voice, "We'll talk about it when we get to Spirit Springs." That one sentence was all the confirmation he needed. Leo was instantly overjoyed. "Deal. Thank you, teammates. Thank you, opponents, for helping me realize my dream. Basketball is the best. I'm going to play basketball in my next life, too." That evening, he went out for a small celebration dinner with a few of his teammates, including their two official family members, Claire and Molly. They had a few beers. Afterward, everyone said their goodbyes and went their separate ways. The couple, Leo Hammer and Bertha Sue, walked hand in hand through the campus at night. The tree-lined path was quiet, illuminated only by the soft glow of the streetlights and the crisp chirping of cicadas. The familiar spring night breeze, the familiar fragrance of wildflowers from the campus bushes. It was an enchanting, heart-stirring scene. Under the moonlight, Leo turned to look at the girl beside him. The silvery moonlight traced the edges of her cool, radiant features, making her look almost otherworldly. Slightly drunk, he felt a rare impulse. He pulled his girlfriend in front of him and moved to kiss her. But Claire playfully pushed him away. She feigned disgust, wrinkling her nose. "You smell like beer." "Gross." She nimbly stepped back, her hands behind her back, a mischievous smile on her lips. "You only get a kiss if you can catch me." Leo froze for a second, then understood. He played along, putting on his best big bad wolf expression. "Then don't blame me for what happens next. Someone's in for it when I catch them." The girl pretended to be scared, backing away. "What are you doing? Don't come any closer, or I'll scream." Leo advanced menacingly. "Go ahead and scream. No one will come to save you." He delivered the classic villain line, but halfway through, felt it was missing something. He thought for a moment, then added a sinister cackle. "Mwahaha. The Bond villain has returned. Perfect." Unfortunately, his perfect imitation didn't have the desired effect. It only made Claire stare at him for a second before bursting into a fit of laughter, her body shaking. She finally managed to stop laughing and looked up at her boyfriend, though a smile still danced on her lips. "Leo, why are you so adorable?" It was a line that would have instantly devastated any single reader of a romance novel, but it only made Leo frown. "Insolence. Is that any way to speak to a Bond villain? Prepare for punishment." With that, he pounced. The girl let out a small gasp and dodged his first lunge, then quickly ran a few steps away. She looked back at him, an eyebrow raised. "Is that all you've got, Mr. Villain?" Leo sneered. "Let's see how tough you are when I catch you. Don't run." A great chase began. Occasionally, a Berkeley student would pass by and see the beautiful girl seemingly fleeing in terror from her pursuer. They would be filled with righteous indignation, ready to play the hero. But a sharp-eyed student would recognize the two and quickly stop the would-be rescuer, saying gravely, "Don't go over there. You'll get hurt by the PD." The Good Samaritan would look confused. The other student would just look at the backs of the couple as they ran off, a mix of emotions on their face. Damn it! Is there anywhere at this school a single person can survive? After a long chase, Ms. Bertha Sue was finally unable to escape the clutches of the Bond villain, Leo Hammer. He caught her by the side of the road and pulled her into his arms. As the victor, he lowered his head without ceremony and claimed his prize, kissing her lips. The girl, accepting her defeat, kissed him back. Their figures melted together under the moonlight in a passionate, tangled embrace. When they finally broke apart, Claire looked up, her eyes hazy and unfocused. Leo, I've realized that with every passing day, I like you a little more. That's the charm of a Bond villain, he replied with conviction. The girl didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She opened her mouth and gave his lip a sharp, punishing bite. Villain, my ass. You silly, clueless boy. The spring nights on the Berkeley campus were pleasant, the atmosphere just right. The young couple walked along, talking and laughing, their occasional affectionate gestures landing like a swift kick to the shins of every single student who happened to pass by. Hey, wake up. Time for another dose of PDA. From their confession in the snow-swept days of winter, their relationship had quietly blossomed into spring. Now it was in full bloom, drawn together by the intoxicating feeling. They happened to be passing by the overlook, the wooded grove on the edge of campus. No word were needed. A single glance, a raised eyebrow was all it took. Leo, the guardian of the Soul Palace, bravely led the Sterling family's young heiress into the wilderness to explore. They explored until the treetops swayed and the leaves trembled, startling the cicadas into a chorus of chirps. When they emerged from the grove, the couple was once again composed, straightening their clothes and wiping lipstick from their faces as they walked away hand in hand, a picture of righteous dignity. Leo walked his girlfriend to the entrance of her dorm, Building 16. It was time to say goodbye. It was still early, but Happy Nest was officially launching tonight. As the company's chief strategy officer, even if he wasn't on site, Leo needed to get back to his dorm and be in front of his computer, ready for the first wave of intel. Claire didn't know the specifics of what he was so busy with. Looking at her boyfriend, she frowned slightly, a hint of reluctance in her eyes, and blurted out, "I wish I could shrink you down and carry you in my pocket." Leo laughed. "That's quite an imagination. You want me to be your little doll? Then I'd be no different than Blackie the Leo Hammer." Claire, however, nodded in enthusiastic agreement. "That would be great. That way, you'd have to stay by my side all day and couldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't need the doll anymore, either. I could use you as a footrest when I sleep." Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hey, a footrest? Isn't that a bit much? Then an image popped into his head. He paused, his heart skipping a beat. Oh, actually, that'd sound kind of nice. Jokes aside, Leo reached out and gently brushed a stray strand of hair from Claire's forehead, caressing her cheek. "It's a startup," he said comfortingly. "It's always a little busy, a little tough at the beginning. Once the company is established, I'm planning on hiring a whole staff just to call you Mrs. Wallace, you know." Claire pouted slightly. Who knows when that'll be? At times like these, she couldn't help but want to tell him he didn't have to work so hard. Whether he succeeded or failed, whether he was rich or poor, her feelings for him would never change. She didn't care about any of that. Besides, the current chairman of Sterling Holdings had been at it for years. It was perfectly reasonable for him to make way for the younger generation. But even as she thought this, she looked up and met Leo's warm, confident gaze, and her heart softened. Her expression grew tender. She reached out, gently stroking his face, and whispered, "Then you'd better give it your all. Don't work too hard. Don't get too tired. I'll wait for you." A text message buzzed on his phone. He pulled it out and glanced at the screen. It was a concise, 3-word message from David Chung. "We're live." Leo smiled, put his phone away, and looked back at his girlfriend. "Don't worry. You won't have to wait long." At 8:30 p.m., Happy Nest launched on schedule. At 8:35 p.m., Leo arrived back at Building 37. As he pushed open the door to room 520, he heard Marco Shaw on his phone, animatedly bragging to some girl from school. "You should have been at the game today. You missed out big time. Me and my boy, we combined for a solid 28 points. What's that? How many did he have?" "Oh, he had like 24, but that's not important. The point is, I got the game-winning assist in the final seconds with the power of my intense stare." Dylan and Leon, sitting at their desks, couldn't help but roll their eyes. Leo chuckled, greeted his roommates, and sat down at his own desk. He pulled out his laptop, booted it up, opened Internet Explorer, and quickly typed a familiar URL, Kaisen001. He hit enter. The familiar website quickly appeared on the screen. The clean, simple homepage and the few practical social features were the final design that the entire Happy Nest team had debated and settled on. He deftly registered an account, logged in, and was immediately greeted by a pop-up recommendation in the middle of the screen. 4 familiar words, garden grab. Leo moved the mouse and clicked into the game's homepage. The familiar, welcoming farm game interface filled the screen. The cute, cartoonish art style. A grid of unplowed farmland, lush green grass, a quaint little wooden cabin, and a simple, intuitive dashboard. It was as if he had been instantly transported back to that joyous time in 2008 when the entire country was obsessed with planting and stealing digital vegetables. On the surface, it looked like a perfectly ordinary little game. But only Leo, a man reborn, knew the truth. He knew what a massive, explosive phenomenon this little game would become in a very short time. It would sweep across the nation's internet, a national obsession that captivated men and women, young and old. And this was the secret weapon that would propel Happy Nest to the top of the social media food chain within the next year. With practice clicks of the mouse, Leo began to experience the flagship game once again, this time from the perspective of an ordinary player. The simple, intuitive controls were just as he remembered. Select seeds, plant them, fertilize, accelerate their growth, click to harvest. As a pile of chubby, cartoon radishes filled his warehouse, a natural sense of satisfaction and accomplishment washed over him. As he played, Leo nodded to himself, pleased. This life's version of Garden Grab had maintained the quality of the original, and with the guidance of its reborn chief strategy officer, it had even more optimizations and improvements than its predecessor. All that was left was to patiently wait for the market's verdict. And for this particular exam, he was more than confident. Hey, what are you playing, Leo? Dylan and Leon wandered over, peering curiously at the game on his laptop screen. What is this? Looks really cartoony. A new Flash game. Leo smiled and offered a simple explanation. It's a farming game. You plant stuff and then steal it from your friends. He gestured to his roommates. You guys should sign up and try it. Marco, having just finished his phone call with a flourish, came over and wrinkled his nose at the screen. Farming? What's so fun about farming? That's for little kids. March 19th. The next morning, at 6:30 a.m. sharp, a frantic alarm blared through room 520. Marco, still half asleep, shot out of bed like a rocket. I'm coming. My radishes are ready. Don't you dare steal my crops. At the same moment, Dylan and Leon had already beaten him to it. Sitting up in bed, they whipped out their laptops from under their covers and, with lightning speed, typed furiously. Victorious cackles filled the room. Ha, got him. My clicks per minute are unmatched. Marco stood there, dumbfounded, his face a mask of grief and betrayal. Holy shit, are you guys even human? As the chaos in room 520 finally roused Leo from his sleep, he sat up, yawning. He looked at his roommates, some ecstatic, others devastated, and a smile spread across his face. He knew that Happy Nest had just taken its first solid step. The game was recommended last night. The addiction set in overnight. At first, the guys in room 520 had been dismissive of the game Leo called Garden Grab. What was the fun in farming? Wouldn't that time be better spent playing a few rounds of Counter-Strike, running a couple of dungeons in WoW, or reading a book? But then they started playing. Half an hour in, Marco, Dylan, and Leon's eyes lit up. Holy crap, this is amazing. It was all the simplest, most mindless clicking. There wasn't even any real skill involved, just planting, fertilizing, and harvesting. Yet, somehow they were hooked. All sleepiness vanished. They sat glued to their computers, completely focused on completing tasks to earn money for fertilizer and new seeds. As Marco put it, dude, this game is like crack. It's got some kind of magic. I never thought I'd see the day where I was desperately searching for seeds. For actual SFW seeds. It was no exaggeration. The trio from room 520 played all night, utterly engrossed. Before bed, they were already obsessing over their harvest times, terrified one of the others would sneak in and steal their crops. They all set alarms to wake up and harvest immediately. Even during classes the next day, the three of them were huddled together, whispering and exchanging tips on farming and stealing strategies. It got the other students curious. What are you guys talking about? Farming. Marco and the others immediately lit up. They enthusiastically pitched the game to their classmates, not forgetting to tell everyone to add them as friends after signing up. It would give them more targets to steal from. At first, their classmates were just as skeptical. What's so fun about farming? Then they'd get back to their dorms, idly pull up the Happy Nest homepage, register an account, and log into Garden Grab. Looking at the game screen, they'd scoff. This cartoon style is for little kids. Then they'd start playing, chuckling to themselves. This is so simple. What's the point? Just planting, fertilizing, harvesting. As they critiqued the game, they'd absent-mindedly click through the motions. And when that first bumper crop of radishes filled their warehouse, they'd pause. What is this strange feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment? Maybe there's something to this. I'm not sure. I'll just play a little longer. And then bit by bit, the addiction would take hold. They become completely engrossed, completing tasks, saving up for fertilizer, buying new seeds. Then they'd think about stealing from their friends, only to find their friends' list empty. They'd immediately storm into other dorm rooms, pounding on the doors. Get up, stop sleeping, turn on your computer, and sign up for Garden Grab. And don't forget to add me. And so, a new wave of students would be reluctantly dragged onto Happy Nest, wrinkling their noses at the cartoonish graphics. What's so fun about this kids' game? On the first night of Happy Nest's launch, there were only 4 registered users at Berkeley, the residents of room 520. By the second day, every single student in their advertising program, guys and girls, had become a Garden Grab user. By the third day, the player base had expanded to the entire School of Humanities. By the evening of the third day, in the dorms, the classroom buildings, and even the dining halls, at least half of the student body at Berkeley was excitedly chattering about it. Are you on Garden Grab yet? Hey girl, add me. Let's be friends. I promise I won't steal your crops. At that point, Berkeley had officially fallen. It had become a vast ocean of digital crop thievery. That night, on a call with David Chung, he was ecstatic. Our primary target demographic was supposed to be white-collar office workers. And right now, they do make up almost 70% of our registered users. But I never expected college students to be so into it. Leo laughed on his end of the line. It's perfectly reasonable. College students aren't that hard to please. Compared to office workers sneaking in game time at their desks, college students had more free time. And they were, for lack of a better term, more pure of heart. A simple social game that was easy to pick up. One person gets hooked, and they'll recommend it to their friends in a heartbeat. Then it spreads from 1 to 10, 10 to 100. The transmission rate was terrifyingly high. David Chung agreed, but then he sounded puzzled. But I'm looking at the back-end data, and the user growth at other universities is pretty normal. Why is it that at your school, Berkeley, the numbers are just exploding? It's only been a couple of days, and it's like the whole campus is playing. Leo rubbed his nose, a calm, knowing tone in his voice. That's nothing. Berkeley is my turf. Normally, no matter how fun Garden Grab was, it wouldn't have spread through Berkeley that quickly. The current campus-wide frenzy was thanks to a certain someone pulling the strings behind the scenes. Really, Leo hadn't done much. Besides recommending it to his roommates, he'd just enlisted a few beautiful brand ambassadors. He sent a text to Lily Liu, found a fun little game. You should try it. I'll take you to dinner to thank you. Then he sent a message to Isabella Zhao. Garden Grab. Play it, or I'll dock your pay. 2 of the departments at girls, given offers they couldn't refuse. Soon, whispers started spreading through the Berkeley student forums. Have you heard? There's this new game called Garden Grab. Lily Liu and Isabella Zhao are both playing it. The 2 girls had unwittingly become the campus spokespeople for Happy Nest. Between them, they drove at least a few hundred new user registrations. Of course, even 2 campus queens weren't enough to make a simple farming game go viral across the entire university so quickly. But then, when a candid photo of a certain coolly beautiful, otherworldly campus goddess playing the game on her laptop in the library was uploaded to the school forums, the entire campus erupted. Holy shit, what is this game that even Claire Sterling is playing? Someone find out. Now. And with that, the final nail was in the coffin. The battle was won. I didn't do anything special. A certain someone explained nonchalantly to David Chung over the phone. Just leverage my network a little. It's mainly the power of beautiful women. And really, he hadn't done much. He just sent 2 text messages. Friday's classes were on the new campus. After they ended, Leo headed straight for the Happy Nest headquarters on Wooding Road. He went up to the 2nd floor of the small building and pushed open the door. The entire office was a hive of activity, a symphony of clicking keyboards and mice. With the website now live, everyone's workload had increased and the number of trivial tasks had multiplied. But you could feel an incredible energy in the air. Despite being busy, every employee had an irrepressible look of excitement on their face. When they saw Leo walk in, their eyes lit up. They swarmed around him, all talking at once. Leo, our project is a hit. Happy Nest is a certified smash. They were desperate to share their excitement with their chief strategy officer. It wasn't until David Chung, the CEO, came out and pretended to put on a stern face that they quieted down. All right, settle down. Where have we even gotten? This is just the first step of a long journey. What's with all this excitement? Get back to your desks and keep working. Then he nodded at Leo, calmly asking him to come to his office. As the employees returned to their desks, they watched their CEO's steady back disappear into his office, sighing with admiration. That's our boss, a man who's seen the world. That kind of composure isn't something you can just learn. The moment Leo closed the office door behind them, David Cheng's face broke into a massive grin. He rushed over, clapping Leo hard on the shoulder. We did it! 230,000. In just 3 days. 230,000 registered users. A peak of 160,000 concurrent users. We've really hit it big. Watching the ecstatic, wild-eyed man in front of him, Leo had to stifle a laugh. This guy can change his tune fast. They sat down in the office, and as Chung continued to share the news, bubbling with joy, Leo finally got the full picture of the data from the first 3 days. Day 1, 1,200 new users. Day 2, 25,000 total users. Day 3, 230,000 total users, with a peak of 164,000 online at the same time. And as of 5 p.m. today, the user count had already soared to 489,000, with a real-time peak of 286,000 concurrent users. It was a terrifying result, enough to send shockwaves through the entire domestic internet industry. Leo thought back. Compared to his memory of Happiness' initial launch in his past life, this was even better. He nodded and offered a casual assessment. Not bad. Pretty good. David Chung stared at him. What the hell? How are you even better at playing it cool than I am? These are explosive, world-beating numbers, and you're acting like it's nothing? What? You've seen this before. Sensing Cheng's thoughts, Leo smiled. It's what I expected. Given the social nature of Garden Grab, every new player will naturally pull in a whole group of others, adding friends to get more targets for stealing, the fun of swiping crops from each other. It's the perfect template for viral marketing. Chung nodded in agreement. True. He looked at Leo, a look of relief on his face. Thank God you reminded me to order more servers last time. Otherwise, with hundreds of thousands of new users pouring in, our backend would have crashed for sure. MHM, Leo said, then added a reminder. We need to order more. The more players we get, the more explosive the growth will be. You need to make sure you have enough cash set aside. Cheng's face was flushed with excitement. He stood up and waved his arm grandly. Then we buy. If we're short on cash, I'll throw my life savings to cover it. Let's see it. Let's see it hit 10 million, 100 million users. In the internet age, traffic was king. User count was king. Even though Happy Nest was burning through cash to expand its hardware, at this rate of growth, the returns would be tenfold, 100-fold, even thousands of times over in the near future. Chung couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Just a few days ago, I never would have dreamed that Happy Nest could achieve something like this. The founder turned to his chief strategy officer, his eyes shining. Now I finally believe what you said. We might really create a legend. Leo just smiled slightly and corrected him. We are creating a legend. On the way home in a taxi, Leo scrolled through his phone. He'd received several text messages. One was from Lily Liu, thanking him for the game recommendation. She said it was really fun and that she'd already shared it with a lot of her friends. Another was from Annie Cakes. You jerk, Leo, you pig. I worked so hard to grow my radishes, and you stole them all. I'm going to tell my sister-in-law on you, unless you grow some radishes for me to steal. Just 2 days ago, she'd been acting all cool and aloof, uninterested in some silly farming game. Now she was a full-blown addict, the it girl of East Bay Financial, a master of the quick change. There was also a message from his prized employee, the perpetually confused Isabella. The new batch of art designs is ready. Why weren't you here today? But the very next line went off the rails. I started playing Garden Grab. What's your username? I'll add you. And she added a solemn promise. Don't worry, I definitely won't steal your crops. A classic case of protesting too much. It seemed Ms. Zhao had found a new avenue for her revenge. The last one was from Claire. Her message was simple. Done yet? Ignoring the text from the two campus queens and his silly cousin, Leo dialed his girlfriend's number. She picked up quickly, her pleasant voice coming through the receiver. You done? Leo smiled. Yeah, on my way back. He could hear some noise in the background, and he asked curiously, what's that sound? Claire's voice was laced with amusement. It's the weekend tomorrow, so everyone came over to hang out. She paused, then added, right now they're all busy stealing crops. As if to prove her point, Leo heard Marco Shaw's panicked cry through the phone. Oh God, help. It's a massacre. Somebody help me. It was followed by Quinn Liu's furious voice. Marco Shaw, you get back here. You promised to help me harvest. Who gave you the nerve to steal from me? Don't anyone hold me back. I'm going to kill him today. Listening to the sounds of the frantic chase, Leo was reminded of a promotional tagline he and David Chung had agreed on. Garden Grab. A heartwarming little game that promotes friendship. He subconsciously rubbed his nose. Yeah, accurate. Perfectly reasonable. Back at the LNS house, Leo pushed open the door to a scene of lively chaos in the living room. The gang from both dorms had foregone cards and pool today. Phones and laptops in hand, they were all sitting on the carpet or the sofa, their eyes glued to the cartoonish farm on their screens. Marco Shaw's escape had failed. He was now lying pitifully on the floor, while Quinn Liu, triumphant, had one long leg planted on his butt. She was holding both her phone and his, and, after a few quick taps, she threw her head back and laughed. "Ha ha, your radishes are mine now." Pinned to the floor, Marco struggled. "Give me back my radishes. Help! Somebody, anybody help." But the rest of them paid him no mind, their heads buried in their own farming endeavors, occasionally casting wary glances at each other, paranoid about their own harvests. Leon had just come back from the bathroom. He'd left his phone with his girlfriend for safekeeping. Now, looking at the screen, he was dumbfounded. "Where are my corn cobs? I just used fertilizer to speed up their growth." His head snapped up, and he looked at his adorable girlfriend. The date cake guy was stunned. Molly looked smug. "There are no couples in farming. Only rivals. Your corn is mine now, haha." Her joy was short-lived. She glanced down at her own screen and gasped. "Hey, where are my potatoes? They were just ready a second ago. How'd they get stolen already?" Nearby, Dylan was trying to sneak away with his laptop. But Molly spotted him. She let out a furious shriek and pounced. "Dylan, you give me back my potatoes." At the same time, Leon seized the opportunity to enter his girlfriend's farm and quickly swiped the rest of her potatoes. It was utter pandemonium. Leo, watching it all, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He turned to Claire, who had come over to greet him. "How long has this been going on?" Claire looked at the chaotic scene and couldn't help but smile. For a good part of the day, all this scheming and backstabbing just to steal some digital crops. You could film a palace intrigue drama with this. At dinner time, by unanimous agreement, everyone temporarily surrendered their phones and laptops, piling them on the sofa. They sat down at the dining table, finally able to eat a meal in relative peace. The hot pot was served bubbling and steaming. Everyone's mouths were watering as they eagerly picked up their chopsticks. Even while eating, the topic of conversation still revolved around garden grab. Marco picked up a piece of lamb, his expression one of profound disappointment. "It's just a game. Is it really worth sacrificing friendship and trust just to steal some crops?" Quinn shot him a sideways glance. "Weren't you the one who started it? Serves you right." Molly's eyes were sparkling. "But this game is so fun. Scheming against people, timing your steals perfectly. It's so exciting. I don't even read my novels anymore. My mind is just filled with the harvest times for all my plots, and all my friends' plots too." Her words were met with nods of agreement from around the table, especially for the girls, who usually had no interest in online games. This farming game was more addictive than it was for the guys. "This game is pretty brilliant," Claire said with a small smile, offering her own casual analysis. "It's simple and easy to pick up, but it really understands player psychology. Americans have this agrarian gene deep down. Everyone dreams of having their own little plot of land. This kind of game satisfies that need perfectly, and the stealing mechanic gives it a built-in social aspect. You steal from me, I steal from you. That back and forth in the game gives you more to talk about offline. The company that made this is pretty impressive." Claire paused, a thoughtful look on her face. But making a hit game is one thing. Being able to leverage that opportunity to truly grow the company is another matter entirely. Beside her, Leo was putting food in her bowl. He casually added, "True, no matter how fun a game is, it's still just a game. It has a ceiling. If Happy Nest really wants to make it big, it can't rely on just garden grab. They need a long-term plan, a clear identity, and a solid business model." The two of them went back and forth, subconsciously launching into a round of business analysis. The others at the table were completely lost. They looked back and forth between Leo and Claire. "You two sound so professional. I don't get it, but it sounds impressive." Marco waved his hand dismissively. "I don't think about all that. It's a game. As long as it's fun, that's all that matters. We steal from each other for a laugh, right? We invite friends so we can share the fun together. So, I say the best thing about this game is that it brings us all closer together. Any game that can do that is a good game." He was really laying it on thick. The others looked moved, nodding in agreement. The atmosphere turned warm and fuzzy as they all smiled at each other, feeling the warmth of friendship. Ding dong. An alarm suddenly went off. The air at the table instantly went still. Everyone looked at each other. Was that? Someone's crops are ready. The next second, they all shot up from their seats and lunged for the pile of phones on the sofa. "Get it. First come, first served. The first one there gets the most. Aya, my corn. You bandits, get away from my corn." Friendship. So fragile. Late at night, after everyone had left, Leo went to the kitchen and washed 2 apples. When he came back out, he saw Claire curled up comfortably on the living room sofa, her long legs crossed, a laptop resting on her knees. The screen displayed the garden grab interface. He sat down next to her and handed her an apple, smiling. "You're addicted too?" Claire took a bite, her tone casual. "Nope, I'm just bored, so I'm studying this website." She switched tabs on the keyboard, bringing up the main Happy Nest homepage. Saturday morning. Bright sunlight streamed through the windows, falling upon the grand friendship bed in the master bedroom of the LNS house. Leo was awakened by the warm morning light. He sat up, yawning, and turned to see that Ms. Bertha Sue was still fast asleep. Her smooth, dark hair was spread lazily across the pillow and bedsheets, partially obscuring her face. Leo smiled. He carefully leaned over and gently brushed the hair away, revealing her stunning face. In her sleep, she looked peaceful and relaxed, her long eyelashes fluttering with each breath. Her smooth, delicate skin looked as if it would break at the slightest touch. Leo couldn't resist. He reached out and gave her cheek a gentle pinch. Soft, tender. It felt amazing. And speaking of amazing, his gaze uncontrollably drifted down from her face, past her delicate lips, her long, pale neck, and to the tantalizing sliver of white skin visible beneath the slightly open collar of her thin pajamas. It was enough to make any man's heart race and blood boil. But his girlfriend was sleeping. What kind of boyfriend would secretly make a move like this? It was improper. Then again, Ms. Bertha Sue was a bit of a messy sleeper. Her pajamas were all wrinkled. As her boyfriend, it was only reasonable to help her smooth them out, right? With a look of righteous determination, he reached out a demonic claw, aiming to help with her chest. He was less than 2 inches away. Then he heard a pleasant voice. "What are you doing?" At some point, Claire had woken up. Her eyes were wide open, staring at her boyfriend, who was practically on top of her. Leo's hand froze for a moment. Then he replied with calm composure. "Nothing. Your pajamas are wrinkled. I was just helping you fix them." Claire glanced down at the hand hovering over her chest, then back up at Leo. Her eyes narrowed into a half smile. "Oh, helping. Are you only helping with the chest area?" Leo paused, considered her question, and answered cautiously. "I can help with other areas too, but I'm particularly skilled with this part." Before he could finish, a slender, pale foot unceremoniously kicked him off the bed. "Skill my ass. Get out, you pervert." As Leo was washing up in the bathroom, staring at his reflection while brushing his teeth, he found himself introspecting. Was it because spring had arrived? Certain thoughts were becoming more and more insistent, harder to suppress. Holding hands, kissing, those small affections were no longer enough. And it wasn't just him. In their daily interactions, he could feel that a certain Ms. Sue's feelings for him were also growing more intense, more passionate. Before, their kisses were just a light touch. Now, once they started, they often couldn't stop, escalating into something much more R-rated, the kind of thing that would get a writer banned. Only the Grove at the Overlook had borne witness to those heart-pounding scenes. In short, they were constantly testing the boundaries between third base and home. Countless times, they had been on the verge of a full-blown incident. It was only thanks to their mutual restraint that they hadn't crossed that final line. But then again, they had been officially dating for nearly half a year. Their feelings for each other were reaching a critical point. If something didn't happen soon, it would almost feel rude. Back at the dorm, Marco, Leon, and Dylan had sneakily asked them about their progress. When they heard that they were still just sleeping chastely in the same bed, Marco had been floored. "Dude, you guys have been living together this long, and you still haven't scored." "Leo, by not making a move, aren't you being incredibly disrespectful to Bertha's beauty?" Leon had even mentioned it to Molly on a date. Molly had found it unbelievable. Based on the romance novels I read, Chapter 1 is holding hands, Chapter 2 is kissing, Chapter 3 is doing the deed, and by Chapter 10, the baby should be born. If they were a novel, they'd be on. By now, their progress is way too slow. Leo hadn't thought it was slow before. But lately, he was really finding it harder and harder to resist the allure his girlfriend exuded without even trying. He splashed cold water on his face from the sink, finally managing to quell the fire in his gut. He took a deep breath, calming himself. Don't rush. Don't rush. Let it happen naturally. Slowly. Just then his phone rang. It was Kevin Zhao. Kevin was calling to report on his work progress. He said he'd gathered a group of friends at school to play various popular browser games and had compiled their feedback, which he would organize and send over later. Leo nodded, about to thank him, when Kevin's tone suddenly shifted. He lowered his voice conspiratorially. Bro, I gotta tell you something. Me and my girl, we did it. At first, Leo didn't get it. Did what? Kevin sounded triumphant on the other end. What do you think? That? You're talking to a mature man now. Oh, by the way, I hope no one's still a virgin after living with his girlfriend for this long. Click. Leo hung up the phone, his expression unreadable. He was filled with a mix of emotions. His own situation was frustrating enough, but a friend's success was what truly stung. The legendary power couple. And the damn eagle had left the nest before the hero. While Leo was in the bathroom on the phone with Kevin, Claire was in the master bedroom, sitting on the bed with her phone to her ear, listening to her best friend's incredulous voice. You too? Still haven't. Claire felt a bit embarrassed, replying weakly. Tessa was completely baffled. But, you're living together, sleeping in the same bed. What, do you guys just talk about your hopes and dreams all night? Claire mumbled, it's not like we do nothing. As they had spent more time together, their feelings had deepened. Especially this spring. She found her own feelings for him becoming more passionate, and she was no longer satisfied with just holding hands and kissing. That's why they had their expeditions to the grove at the Overlook, seeking greater thrills. She had even allowed the little pervert to round third base, and had actively helped him. But that final step, they just hadn't taken it. After washing up, the couple sat down for breakfast. Leo couldn't stop thinking about Kevin's phone call. He sighed, to think he'd actually been one-upped by Kevin. He glanced up and noticed that Claire, sipping her oatmeal, also seemed distracted. Curious, he asked, what's wrong? Claire put down her bowl, looked at him seriously, and suddenly blurted out, Leo, are you going to explode from holding it in? Leo nearly sprayed a mouthful of oatmeal across the table. He coughed violently. When he finally caught his breath, he looked at his girlfriend, bewildered. What did you just say? Claire explained. Kevin told Tessa he was going to explode. She then relayed the story she'd heard from Tessa. Leo finally understood, and then he almost died laughing. Well, so that's how my best friend sealed the deal. I can't call him K-Money anymore. From now on, he's Explosion Bro, huh? But Claire was looking at him, a worried expression on her face. Are you going to explode too? Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What are you talking about? Nobody's exploding. Earlier, in the bathroom, the cold water had cleared his head. He had thought it through. Their relationship was progressing steadily, their connection growing deeper. The pace they were at was perfect. There was no need to rush things. He had his own desires, but he respected his girlfriend's feelings and decisions even more. You can't rush a good thing. They'd get there when they got there. With that thought, Leo smiled and took Claire's hand. Don't worry, it's not that dramatic. I'm not Kevin. Claire's brow finally relaxed. But after a moment, she looked at him again and said softly, if you really can't hold it in, you have to tell me. I can help you. Leo was in the middle of waving his hand dismissively. You have to trust your boyfriend's self-control. He trailed off as her words registered. He blinked. He looked up and saw an undeniable blush creeping across his girlfriend's face. His gaze uncontrollably drifted down to her delicate, pale hands. He took a deep breath and nodded, his voice a picture of calm. Okay, that works. On the outside, he was composed. On the inside, he was ecstatic. Praise be to Explosion Bro. It was a quiet Saturday morning. The couple worked together to clean the house. With the spring trip coming up next week, they also started packing. As a guy, Leo's packing was simple. He finished quickly and went to help Claire. A girl's packing list was much more complicated. Makeup, skincare products, a sun hat, sunscreen. Leo counted them off as he helped her place them in her suitcase. He couldn't help but marvel. It was true what they said about women. Even his own impossibly beautiful Bertha Sue was not immune to the desire to look her best. He continued helping. Hand creaming, face washing. Blackie the Leo hammer doll. What, was she keeping this thing around to compete with him? He tossed it aside. Then there were the clothes. One outfit, then another. That seemed about right. Oh, and here were some stockings. He put one pair in, then another, and another. Claire slapped him playfully on the back of the head, half annoyed, half amused. How many pairs of stockings are you packing for me? We're going on a spring trip to hike and soak in hot springs. No one wears these for that. Leo's face was perfectly straight. You can wear them for me privately, when we're relaxing. Just the two of us. Claire kicked him lightly. You little pervert. But despite the kick and the scolding, she didn't stop him. With most of the packing done, Claire opened Leo's suitcase and frowned. These outfits are not good. Change them. Leo just smiled and waved his hand. This is all I have. It's fine. Guys don't care about this stuff. She shot him a cool look. Oh, really? Then let me tell you a ghost story. Leo raised an eyebrow, surprised. You know ghost stories? Claire nodded. Once upon a time, there was a boy who didn't care about how he dressed. What happened to him? Leo asked, curious. Claire looked at her boyfriend and gave him a sweet smile. His girlfriend dumped him. Leo. It was a universal truth. Once a guy was in a relationship, he lost all say in his wardrobe and hairstyle. All rights of interpretation and management belonged to the girlfriend. She opened his closet and pulled out all of his spring clothes. With her slender fingers, she held each item up to him, meticulously comparing them. It took a full half-hour before she was finally satisfied. Leo, who had been treated like a dress-up doll for the past 30 minutes, finally breathed a sigh of relief. But then, an idea seemed to strike Claire, and her eyes lit up. I have some clothes in my closet, too. Leo was horrified. He immediately refused. Absolutely no dresses. Her eyes sparkled as she leaned in. They're not that feminine. More androgynous. I think you'd look good in them. Leo shook his head vehemently. Still no. He quickly changed the subject. It's already noon. Let's get lunch. Let's get lunch. After lunch, he received a message on AIM from Potato, who had some new ideas for the Battle Through the Heavens game proposal. Leo told Claire he had to work and went to the study. Claire readily agreed, settling onto the sofa with a book. Their relationship had become so natural and comfortable. They could be sweet and clingy one moment and give each other space the next. In the study, Leo opened his laptop, logged into AM, and focused his attention on the chat window, diving into a serious discussion with bite off more than you can chew. In the instant messaging and blogging spaces, we're up against the giants, AIM and Blogger. And our most direct competitor, My Campus, already has a massive user base that we can't touch right now. Our new users are only here for Garden Grab. If we force other features on them, it'll just annoy them. It'll backfire. Leo's voice was calm and steady, without a trace of impatience. So, rein in the ambition for now. Be patient and continue to build our strength. Until we have a large enough user base, don't pick a fight with the real internet titans. When we're ready, there will be plenty of tough battles to fight. His tone was casual, but his final words carried a cold, sharp edge. On the other end of the line, David Chung took a deep breath. You're right. I was getting ahead of myself. I'll listen to you. Then, Chung brought up another issue Happiness was facing. The user growth is great, but just like our data models predicted, over 75% of our users are office workers. The student demographic, aside from Berkeley and East Bay Financial, which you brought in for your connections, the growth at other universities isn't very optimistic. Leo nodded. That means Garden Grab hasn't really taken off among students yet. Chung sighed. I have faith in our game's quality and its potential to spread. Garden Grab can easily go from 1 to 100, or even 1 to 10, 0, 0, 0. The hard part is getting from 0 to 1. To break into the student market, we need to invest heavily in marketing and promotion up front. But our marketing budget has already been spent on the white-collar demographic. Even the best wine needs advertising. After a moment, Chung added casually, or do you have connections with campus queens at other schools? Another 100 or so should solve the problem. Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How many have you had a drink? Jokes aside, this was a problem both of them had anticipated, and they had already prepared a solution. Cheng's tone turned serious again. In that case, should I have my team start on phase 2? Leo thought for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, let's begin. The next day, Sunday, as Happiness users were woken by their alarms, they rubbed their sleepy eyes, yawned, and immediately reached for their phones or laptops to log into Garden Grab and harvest their crops. But they were greeted by an unexpected pop-up announcement on the game page. New Happiness feature now live. Come and experience it. Click the arrow below to jump to the new feature. Button. At first, the players were uninterested, assuming it was just an ad they could close. But a line of text at the bottom of the pop-up caught their attention. All players who try the new feature will receive a Garden Grab gift pack and bonus experience points. Well, if there were a reward involved. The players, who had been bored a moment ago, perked up. Who cared what it was? They could just click it, get the gift pack, and be on their way. They clicked the arrow. The page redirected. A brand new feature page appeared, and the large, bold words in the center made them all pause. Named Compatibility Test. Compatibility Test. That morning, in room 520 of Building 37, Marco Shaw stared at the new feature page on his computer screen, completely baffled. What the heck is this? Dylan leaned over to look. It tests your compatibility? Looks like you just enter 2 names, and it gives you a score. Marco scoffed. What's the point of that? It's all made up. Less reliable than a real fortune teller. Lame. I clicked it, so I should be able to go back to the farm and get my gift pack now, right? He was about to close the page and rush back to Garden Grab. But just then, Leon, sitting at the next desk, let out a cry of surprise. Wait, I tried it. and it seems pretty accurate. Come look. His words drew Marco and Dylan over. Leon, both shocked and delighted, showed them his laptop screen. I just enter my name and Molly's. I click test. The result was made for each other. Marco and Dylan, skeptical, leaned in for a closer look. On the screen, above the name boxes for Leon and Molly, the result was indeed made for each other, complete with a cute cartoon couple graphic. Marco rolled his eyes. It's fake. It's for suckers. Their database is just full of generic phrases like that. Try it again, and it'll be different. The honest Leon was now half convinced. Really? I'll try again. He moved the mouse and clicked the test button again. The page refreshed. A new result appeared. A perfect match. It was accompanied by a new cartoon couple graphic. Leon was grinning from ear to ear. Hey, it's still right. This thing is fun. Dylan was also surprised. Okay, that is a little weird. Marco still wasn't convinced. No way, it's just a coincidence. Move over, Leon, let me try. He sat down at the computer and, with a flurry of keystrokes, entered his and Dylan's names. He looked smug. Let's see what it comes up with now. Watch, this thing is definitely going to be way off. He confidently hit enter. The page refreshed. The result, in large, bold letters, appeared on the screen for all three of them to see. Joker cards below, it was a picture of a deck of cards, with one big joker and one little joker. Marco, question mark. Dylan, question mark. Leon looked at his two roommates, then back at the screen. He chose his words carefully. It seems pretty accurate. Marco was officially triggered. He rolled up his sleeves, grinding his teeth. I don't believe it. I'm trying again. Hey, what's this? To test more than 3 times, you have to share with a friend to get more chances? Fine, I'm sharing. I'm going to war with this thing today. Just like Garden Grab, Happiness name compatibility test went viral almost overnight. And because it had Happiness' existing user base of nearly 2 million as a foundation, the number of people using the compatibility test skyrocketed to 6 million in a single day between Saturday and Sunday. The number of tests performed reached a staggering 13 million. It was a terrifying figure, enough to leave industry professionals speechless. But for the team at Happiness, what was even more exciting was that of those 6 million users, nearly 70% were university, high school, and even middle school students. This, in turn, drove Happiness' new user registrations, pushing the total past the 4 million mark by Sunday night. A compatibility testing craze swept the internet. On school campuses everywhere, from universities to high schools, students were excitedly discussing it. Some were secretly testing their own names with their crushes. Others were messing around, testing their friends' names for laughs. Some were just making up random names to see what kind of crazy results they could get. They were all having a blast. When they ran out of free tests, they would eagerly share the link with their friends to get more chances. As a result, the number of users continued to explode, and Happiness' popularity soared. I can't believe such a simple, almost childish little feature could have this kind of effect. On Sunday night, during his phone call with Leo, David Chung couldn't help but sigh with amazement again. Just this one simple program. It's been more effective than a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign. Leo laughed. It is simple, but you just have to hit the right psychological chord with your audience, especially for students. Who doesn't have a secret crush? Their minds are filled with thoughts of whether they're compatible. This program just gives them a platform for their fantasies. Whether the test was scientific or not was completely irrelevant. The users weren't stupid. They knew it was just for fun, but they played it enthusiastically anyway. If they got a result they didn't like, they just keep testing 10, 100 times until they got one they were happy with. And to get more chances, they had to invite more friends, becoming free marketing tools for Happiness. This move, it's a masterclass in user psychology, David Chung said, full of admiration for Leo. I don't know how your brain works, kid, to come up with something like this. The compatibility test had been Leo's idea, a proposal he had given to Chung, which the company had rushed to develop. Leo replied modestly, it was nothing, a team effort. Chung shook his head vehemently. What team effort? This was all you. I mean, look at me. This feature was created, and I had nothing to do with it. Leo also shook his head. Don't sell yourself short. You're being too modest. In his past life, this was the exact feature that a certain Mr. Chung had developed himself 6 months after Happiness launch. This was just returning something to its rightful owner a little ahead of schedule. A new week began. On Monday morning, the hot topic of conversation among the students at Berkeley was a new one. Have you tried the compatibility test yet? This kind of simple, mindless app should have been too childish even for elementary school students. But for the pure-hearted, time-rich, cash-poor university students, it was perfect. Once they started, they were hooked. It was even more addictive in Garden Grab. During his advertising class, Leo could hear his classmates whispering excitedly, pulling out their phones to test different name combinations on the spot, letting out gasps of surprise every now and then. Even Marco, who had been the most dismissive of the app yesterday, now had to admit this thing is seriously weird. He had spent all of yesterday testing every name combination he could think of, uncovering over 100 different results in the program's database. They were all over the place. But for some reason, whenever he put his own name in with Dylan's, the result was always either Joker Cars, Gotham's Finest, or the McDonald's Duo. It had almost sent both of them into an existential crisis. I mean, it was just a random word generator. Was their bond really that unbreakable? At lunch, the gangs from room 205 and room 520 had their usual get-together. The girls from 205 were also buzzing about the new feature on Happy Nest. Quinn was animatedly explaining how she had tested her name with various handsome celebrities and had discovered that she was most compatible with Daniel Wu. She preened, brushing her hair back. See, this little game just tells the truth. I'll have to ask Daniel when he plans on marrying me. Molly was also sharing happily. I tried my name with Quinn, Jade, and Claire. We're all a perfect match for besties. Leon, sitting next to her, chimed in, Molly, we're a perfect match too, and made for each other. Marco mercilessly exposed him. Molly, don't listen to him. Ask him what else he tested yesterday. This piqued Molly's curiosity, and everyone else's as well. They all started grilling Leon. Finally, the date cake guy confessed, a little embarrassed. I was just messing around, and I tested my name with date cake. The result of that compatibility test, lovers for 9 lifetimes. The table fell silent for a moment. Then, everyone burst out laughing so hard they nearly passed out. When they finally recovered, Quinn looked at Leo and Claire. Hey, have you two tried it yet? Claire raised an eyebrow and glanced at her boyfriend. Not yet. She had only found out how popular the test was when she got to campus today. Everyone immediately got excited again. Then you have to try it. Quick, right now. Molly eagerly pulled out her phone, logged into Happy Nest, and opened the compatibility test. I'll do it. I'll do it for you. She quickly typed Leo Wallace and Claire Sterling into the input boxes. She hit confirm. The page started to load. Everyone leaned in, their faces full of anticipation. Leo was also a little curious to see what his own creation would spit out this time. But despite his curiosity, he just said, it's just a random word generator, all for fun. It's not that accurate. The next second, the page refreshed. The result, in 2 large, bold words, appeared on the screen for all to see. Reasonable. Simple, concise, yet weighty. Everyone at the table. Question mark. Quinn gasped. No way. Marco stared at the phone screen as if he'd seen a ghost. Wait, this thing is definitely rigged, right? Even Leo was stunned. Who the hell had put that word in the database? And how could it be so spot on? After thinking for a long time, he could only conclude it must be a coincidence. But Claire looked at the result and smiled, her eyes curving into crescents. MHM, it is indeed reasonable. Garden Grab plus the name compatibility test. With this 2-pronged attack, Happy Nest was now tearing through the domestic internet market, reaping a massive harvest of new registered users. The compatibility test was just a way to draw people in, to attract more student users to Garden Grab, who would then become long-term, loyal members of Happy Nest. The foundation was now firmly in place. All they had to do was wait for Garden Grab's user base to explode, hitting a brand new growth curve. By noon on Monday, Happy Nest's registered user count had soared to 3 million. Garden Grab's peak concurrent user count reached 3 million, and it was still climbing. There was no sign of it slowing down. According to David Chung, top-tier venture capital firms were already trying to get in touch with them. Advertisers were also contacting their marketing department, eager to ride the wave of popularity, cash in hand. The offers they were making were already staggeringly high. Leo's advice to Chung was, wait a little longer. The website was still on an unstoppable upward trajectory. To negotiate with investors now would be to sell themselves short. Most people would have jumped at the incredible offers they were receiving. But for someone reborn, there was no hesitation. He was the one who had the most faith in Happy Nest. He knew the legend this company could create in the next 6 months, the heights it could reach. So there was no rush. Chung agreed, but the only problem was that the company's finances were running low. They needed money for more servers, for hiring more staff, and for other essential costs. If they waited much longer, the company wouldn't be able to hold out. Leo understood the problem. He thought for a moment, then said, hold on for a few more days. Then, we can prepare to open up the payment channels for Garden Grab. Chung nodded in agreement. This was the plan they had decided on during a company meeting. For the first week, Garden Grab would be completely free. After that, they would gradually introduce paid gift packs and promotions. But they couldn't be too aggressive. If they were too eager to make money, it would ruin the game's balance and fairness, alienating the majority of free-to-play users. In the beginning, we'll limit the daily spending cap, Leo said, organizing his thoughts. For now, let's just offer a $1 starter pack and some fixed-price gift packs. He paused, then shook his head. I'll come to the office this afternoon. We can discuss it in person. Leo had just hung up the phone outside the dining hall when he heard a burst of laughter from the table where his friends were sitting. He turned to see Marco waving excitedly at him. Leo, come here. We just tested Jade and Dylan. The result was Tom and Jerry. Ha ha ha. This compatibility test is hilarious. The person who came up with this is a genius. Come on. Leo put his phone away and walked over, grinning. Coming. As the creator and driving force behind it, even Leo hadn't expected the compatibility test to be this popular. On the bus to the new campus that afternoon, all the students in his advertising class were still on their phones, playing with the feature, completely engrossed. Watching the scene, Leo couldn't help but sigh. University students really have too much free time. But caught up in the atmosphere, he pulled out his own phone, logged into Happy Nest, and opened the compatibility test to play around. He entered Leo Wallace and Claire Sterling again. The result refreshed. Power couple. He tried Hammer plus Bertha. Meant to be. Leo chuckled. This thing really knew how to flatter people. It was actually kind of clever. He had one free test left for the day. Not wanting to waste it, he had a sudden inspiration. He curiously typed Leo Wallace and Charles Sterling into the input boxes. He clicked test. He wanted to see what kind of relationship he had with his future father-in-law. The page loaded quickly. The result popped up, like brothers. Leo. A string of question marks appeared over his head. He pursed his lips and put his phone away. So it really is just a dumb algorithm. It's not that clever after all. Not accurate at all. After his design class on the new campus, Leo went to Studio 204 before heading to the Happy Nest office. Since he wouldn't be on the new campus for the entire next week, he had to give his perpetually confused employee her assignments in person. You won't be here for a week? Isabella asked, looking puzzled. Why? He waved his hand, his expression serious. Being a boss is very busy. I have important business to attend to this week. The great Miss Zhao looked like she half understood. Seeing her boss's commanding presence, a sliver of respect and admiration bloomed within her. Even though he looks like a rich kid, he's actually very hardworking. With a hint of admiration and curiosity, she couldn't help but ask, is it about our web game project? He shook his head and answered honestly, no, it's the spring trip. Isabella. She stared at her boss's completely straight face. Suddenly, she felt her fists clenching. Damn capitalist. Why's it gonna go have fun while I'm stuck here, slaving away? I quit. I'm starting a revolution. Leo glanced at her. Is there a problem? Miss Zhao immediately lowered her gaze. No, boss. Have a great trip. Have fun. Beggars can't be choosers. One wrong word, and this guy will dock my pay again. Calm down. Isabella, you can't be impulsive. You could just steal all his crops in Garden Grab and get your revenge that way. Oh, by the way, before leaving, Leo seemed to remember something. He stopped and turned back, looking curiously at his number one employee. You're not thinking of stealing my crops to get back at me, are you? Isabella's eyes widened in shock. Crap, he found out. She looked up, trying to appear calm. Well, what? Of course not. I'm not that kind of person. Leo nodded, satisfied. Good. Because it's a $100 pay dock for every stolen crop. See ya. He gave a jaunty wave and left, leaving a stunned Isabella staring at his departing figure. When she came to her senses, she was filled with despair. What kind of cruel fate led me to a boss like this? Thinking of fate, she grabbed her phone, opened the compatibility test, and, gritting her teeth, typed in their names. She wanted to see just how star-crossed they really were. Names entered. Isabella Zhao plus Kevin Zhao. The page loaded. The result appeared in large, bold letters. A timeless injustice. Isabella. She blinked, then slapped her forehead in realization. Of course. With a boss like this, isn't that exactly what I am? A timeless injustice. Damn you, Kevin Zhao. Chapter 390. After leaving the campus, Leo took a taxi straight to Wooding Road. He went up to the second floor of the small building, pushed open the door to the office, and was greeted by a boisterous, cheerful scene. The Happy Nest employees were dividing up a cake and popping champagne to celebrate. When they saw Leo, their eyes lit up and they erupted in cheers. Leo, you're the man. Leo was a little surprised. What's the occasion? Hannah Ling came over with 2 champagne glasses, her face beaming. We just broke 4 million registered users. Everyone's celebrating. You're the hero of the hour, Leo. Here, have a glass. The name compatibility test had been an incredible success, driving a massive amount of traffic and engagement to the site. The user count, which had been just over 3 million at noon, had jumped by nearly another million in just a few hours. It was definitely something worth celebrating. Leo gladly took the champagne glass, raised it to the crowd, and drained it in one go, which earned him another round of cheers. David Chung walked over, a broad smile on his face. These kids have no composure. Just 4 million users, and they're this excited. Making such a big deal out of it. It's a bit much, if you ask me. The next second, an employee called him out. You were the one who jumped out of your office chair when we hit 4 million, Mr. Chung. Yeah. And you were the one who ordered the champagne and cake. If Owen and Penny hadn't stopped you, you would have bought a whole case of champagne. The department heads, Penny Fong and Owen Wu, joined in the fun. It's true, I'm a witness. The boss had the least composure of all of us. This made the old man blush slightly, and he feigned annoyance. All right, that's enough. Celebration's over. Get back to work. We gotta try and hit 5 million today. Then he turned to Leo, his smile returning. Don't listen to them. They're just messing around. This is nothing to be proud of. See? I'm not even smiling. Leo looked at David Chung, whose grin was practically splitting his face in two. He had never realized the old man was such a character, but it was one piece of good news after another, and it was truly something to be happy about. Chung, Leo, Penny, and Owen gathered in the office to discuss the company's recent achievements and progress. Owen, unable to hide his excitement, said that at the current rate of growth, they could hit 10 million registered users by the end of the month. The only problem was that they would need to buy even more servers. The backend was already struggling to keep up. Chung and Leo told them about their plan to open up the payment channel for the game. Penny and Owen's eyes lit up. In that case, funding won't be a problem at all. With Garden Grab's current popularity, with 2 to 3 million concurrent users, even with a spending cap, the revenue for the first month alone could easily reach 10 million. Owen was already rubbing his hands together in excitement. We can buy more than just servers. We can upgrade all of our equipment. Penny was also beaming. In the office space issue, this floor is getting too crowded. Mr. Chung, we should consider renting out the entire 3-story building. Chung waved his hand grandly. Done. You guys draw up the proposals and budgets. I'll sign off on them. The 2 department heads grinned, showering him with praise. You're the best, Mr. Chung. Leo joined in. The best, Mr. Chung. By the way, is it time to start paying the chief strategy officer's salary? 100,000 a month should be fine. Chung, without thinking, waved his hand again. Done, wait, done my ass. He suddenly caught on and glared at Leo. You little rascal, trying to slip one past me. Huh? We haven't even turned a profit yet. With the company's prospects looking so bright, everything was decided smoothly and cheerfully. After they had finished with business, Leo mentioned to the others that he wouldn't be in the city for the next week, and that they should call him if anything came up. Chung and the others were curious, and when they found out he was going on a school spring trip, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Here their company was making huge waves in the internet industry, and their chief strategy officer was going on a university spring trip. If word got out, people would be shocked. Owen, however, was intrigued. Spirit Springs Mountain? I went there a few years ago. The scenery is beautiful, the hot springs are nice, and I think there's an old temple nearby. I heard it's been there for centuries. Chung was surprised. Really? In that case, Leo, you should go check it out. Pray for our company's good fortune. Leo wasn't too concerned about it. He glanced at the red thread of destiny on his wrist and smiled casually. We'll see. I'm more of a believer in bodhisattvas these days. On the taxi ride back to school from the office, he sent a text to his girlfriend to let her know he was on his way. When he got to the east gate of the campus, he saw a familiar figure waiting for him by the side of the road. He walked up to her. Had you been waiting long? Claire looked up at him and smiled. Just got here. Haven't eaten, right? Let's go get something. The campus dining halls were already closed. They found a noodle shop near the east gate and went inside. While they were waiting for their food, Claire was tapping away on her phone, her eyes focused on the screen. What are you looking at? Leo asked. The compatibility test, she replied casually. Leo laughed. You're addicted to? Claire shook her head, correcting him. I'm conducting important research. Important research? She nodded enthusiastically. Choosing a best man. She handed him her phone. Leo looked at it and was stunned. Ms. Bertha Sue was systematically testing the names Kevin Zhao, Marco Shaw, and Dylan with the keyword best man. Leo looked up at his girlfriend, his respect for her growing. You can use it like that. A path he had never even considered. He had never imagined the compatibility test could be used for such an obscure purpose. He was intrigued. What would the result for those guys? He looked closer. Kevin, Marco, and Dylan had gotten passable, okay, and dead silence respectively. Leo laughed. None of them are very good. Claire nodded in agreement. Yeah, they're all pretty mediocre. Then she added, with a hint of satisfaction, Mr. Chin and Mr. Joe did well, though. She scrolled down to show him the results for Mr. Chin and the former Special Forces soldier. One was duty-bound. The other was meritorious service. Leo was even more interested now. Let's try me. This little algorithm is starting to feel like real magic. I gotta try it myself. He took the phone and typed in Leo Wallace plus best man. He clicked test. The result refreshed. The only choice. Leo stared at it, stunned. Huh, does that mean I'm the most suitable? Claire also paused for a moment, then slowly looked up at her boyfriend. She thought for a moment. How about you do it? Leo, as the realization dawned on him, he was horrified. Oh no, I've been demoted to best man.